Good evening. It's 6 p.m. Tuesday, August 4th, 2026. We will start City Council meeting. Please rise. Join me for the pledge. Thank you. There's a half a dozen seats up front. They've been set up front. Thank you, sir. Item boards and commissions, item 1.1, consider to take all appropriate action on the appointment of a member to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a term to expire December 31st, 2028. We had 2 council members who interviewed. Do you all have a slate for us to vote on? How do you guys want to handle that?
Yeah, we did. Just to start it off, we had 8 nominees or people that put in their applications. Afterwards, we felt we had, 3 or 4 very good ones, but we did come up with one for the slate, and I'll let Angela.
Yeah, so just to echo what Guy said, amazing interviews, great. I mean, pretty much all of them were qualified in one way, shape, or form. But there was one person that has prior experience with planning and zoning in a previous community many years ago. He helped write ordinances, and he just was very, very qualified. So we are recommending Robert Zeller for the position.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is to nominate Robert Zeller for the position of Planning and Zoning Commission for a time to expire on December 31st, 2028. Are you making that motion?
Correct.
Angela makes the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilmember Rogers seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? Councilmember Sanford opposed. Motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Zeller. Welcome to the board. Thank you to the interview panel. Item 2, presentations. Item 2.1, presentation of the 2026 event report by Keels and Wheels. Patty, you can come out to the side microphone.
Hello, I'm Patty E. I'm a marketing administrator. Oops, sorry. There we go. Thank you. Thanks, John. I'm reporting on our 30th annual Keels and Wheels that we had April 25th and 26th. We celebrated these 30 years of automotive and nautical excellence, and we were really excited to give you a great report of the outstanding event that we had this year. Just to tell you who was here, we can go to the next slide. There are 180 cars, antiques, classics, sports, and exotics, as well as 30 antique boats and classic boats. And then we have a tent that has supercars, exotics, and other rarities that were on display for our visitors. In addition to those special things, our keels, our boats, we have 100 years of Century boats, 25 years of Riva, and high-performance boats for everybody to see. In our wheels, our mark was the Shelby. We also had a special display from the Space City Mustang. On Saturday, they brought 25 of their best Mustangs from their club. It was really exciting. And then we had several cars that were the first time ever to be displayed. We also had a car from the Gilmore Automobile Museum. And speaking of Shelby, one of our special guests was Aaron Shelby, who's the grandson of Carroll Shelby, the famous race car driver and car developer. You may remember the movie Ford versus Ferrari. That was about Carroll Shelby. And so his grandson was with us this year again. We also like to say thank you to the Texas Outlaw Challenge. They provided us with boats to put in our inner harbor to represent our high performance boats, or like we call them, go fast boats. I want to give you a few quick numbers. We had 6,000 attendees at Keels and Wheels this year. That was over the 2 days. We had 1,400 of them that came from 50 miles or more. That number of 50 miles is very important because if they come from over 50 miles, they're more likely to stay in a hotel, which helps us with the hotel numbers. We had 30 states represented, including Alaska and Hawaii, plus a few folks from Mexico. So we felt really successful about doing an outreach across the country to bring people in to Seabrook, Texas, to see Keels and Wheels. Our host hotel was Spring Hill Suites. We were able to fill 115 nights at the hotel over the days of the show. We had 2 room blocks. One is a block that we pay for ourselves that are VIPs, and then we have a block that has a special rate. As I explained earlier, Spring Hill Suites came up with giving a special rate for anybody that was coming to stay with Keels and Wheels, which made it much easier to count who was there as opposed to try to do some of the other things that we've been doing. So we're looking forward to working with our hotels again this year to make sure we can count everyone. Our marketing, you can see we had a whole list of marketing. I want to say we had a second special guest, Lou Costable. He's on YouTube and Facebook. He had over 65 million views on Microsoft products in the month of April, and that was based upon his videos he had done in Seabrook ahead of time, as well as during the show about Keels and Wheels. So really excited to have him, and he'll be back next year. And we hope to do a special video, maybe here at City Hall or somewhere else in Seabrook, that we can focus on cars that are here locally. Just quick is a look at our hot funds expenditures. We were given $50,000 by the city. Our hot fund expenditures exceeded over almost $76,000, and that money was spent on advertising, shuttle transportation, registration materials, and signage, all per our contract with the city, as well as the obligations that we must meet the regulations from the state of Texas. Quickly, and I'm not going to read them all, those are our show sponsors. We had a big variety of them, some national, some local, but we're always happy to have them here as they're promoting their businesses at Keels and Wheels. We also do a lot of business with the different businesses that are here in Seabrook, so we are pumping some of that money right back into the local economy. And on the next slide, I have a list of some of those companies. I think we're having problems. Are we ready for that? There we go. Okay, anyway, that was some. And then this is our nonprofit support. You see it's a variety of different organizations that we work with. Some of them have tents. Some of them we work with closely, like Clear Creek Independent School District. We can't put any parking on the property, so we use the local elementary school and intermediate schools, our overflow parking, and we pay them a nominal fee so that we can have parking there. And last, just take a second, slow down just a little bit. I have to recognize our founder, Bob Fuller. He unfortunately died at the beginning of FY 2026. Bob Fuller was the man who got it all started, and he pushed Keels and Wheels to where it is today. So the board is honoring him now with the Bob Fuller Legacy Scholarship Fund, and we are providing scholarships to local students who are studying auto mechanics or auto technology or design. We want to make sure that his vision of loving automobiles continues through the new students that are coming forward. So thank you, Bob, for all you've done, and we really miss him a whole lot. Finally, just quickly about us, LYC Concourse Corporation is the parent company of Keels and Wheels. We are a 501c3 organization, tax deductible, nonprofit, and we're dedicated to the preservation and recognition of antique cars and boats. It was founded in 1996 by Bob Fuller and Paul Merriman so that they could continue to have a showcase of classic cars here in the area, and it has been held at Lakewood Yacht Club annually since 1966. Finally, thank you, Seabrook, Texas, once again for being an exceptional partner with us. We love working with you, and we look forward to working with you in 2027. Are there any questions?
I just have a statement. So I like how you work with the hotels to have that special room rate, because one of the biggest issues, the questions we always have is how many heads are actually staying in beds. And I love that y'all have that special rate, because that way it's easier for the hotelers to know exactly how many people stayed in Seabrook for your event. So I love that, and I would hope that maybe that's something too that the hotels could work out with the other groups that receive the funding, because that seems to always be the biggest question of how many heads are actually staying here, and having that group rate is an excellent idea. So
Thank you.
I commend y'all on that.
Thank you. And I think it's much easier than trying to get a national corporation to create a code in their IT systems. The hotel can set a rate, and that's the only ones that get it. So I thought that was ingenious on their part, and thank you for recognizing them, and I'll share that with them too. Any other questions or comments?
Anything else? Go ahead, Angela.
So you might correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the shuttle service that y'all use is actually locally owned. Is that correct?
That's correct. It is one of the businesses that we work with, Travel Zone. So and that's an expense you can use your hot funds on. So Travel Zone here in Seabrook provides all the buses back and forth, and it is invaluable. We wouldn't be able to have the show without it, but thank you for recognizing them individually.
Yeah, and thank you for using local.
We love it. We love them.
Anything else? Patty, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, council. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Item 2.2, presentation of the quarter report by the Seabrook Volunteer Fire Department, Chief Nathan Douglas. Oh, Chief. Wrong chief. Come on up, Andy.
Hey, good evening. Andy Castellion. I'm the Assistant Chief of the Seabrook Volunteer Fire Department. Chief Douglas is actually out of town this evening, so he asked myself and Chief Bristow to make the presentation. So this will be for the prior 3 months, so May, June, and July of this past year. We've run 216 calls in that 3-month period with an average response time of 5 minutes and 3 seconds. That's consistent with our year-to-date average. Year-to-date, we've run 500 calls with an average response time of 5 minutes and 12 seconds, so a little faster over the last 3 months. Of our responses, pretty consistently for this quarter as well as year-to-date, approximately 60% of our calls are first responder, EMS in nature, so supporting our EMS partners. And one of the reasons that's so important to us is we're now just shy of 80% of our membership holding a Texas Department of State Health Services certification. So over the last several years, we've worked very hard through our EMS program to increase that percentage. About 5 or 6 years ago, it was 50%, and so we've steadily increased that, which is great given the percentage of EMS calls that we run. We did run 8 calls, fire calls this past quarter. One thing to note, a number of those are outside fires, and so just a reminder to our citizens and the community of our city burn ordinance that is out on the website. And then we did also as well, I know last year I had made a presentation around our rescue boat, and so I just wanted to share some information. It's the summertime, and so this time of year we see an increase in the number of water rescues and boat responses. Over the last 3 months, we've had 7. One of those we actually had to deploy our fireboat to. You may have seen it on the news. It was a boat fire down off Texas City Dike, and so our fireboat deployed down there. And then another 6 calls, including 3 where we put our rescue boat on the water to assist people in distress on the water. The only other notable thing, obviously we've talked quite a bit over the last several months about putting our training field into commission this last 3 months. So Chief Bristow has been executing a number of trainings there. We're very excited. We're grateful to the community, the city, for the support of that, and it's really enhanced our training. So the last several Mondays we've been out there training, including this past Saturday. We actually did our first burn there, so we've been able to actually burn in the burn rooms there. And then the last thing, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the first annual Seabrook Fire Department kickball game. Props to the to the police department for their 4-2 victory. So they bested us this year, but we're looking forward to future challenges, preferably maybe a game inside like ice hockey. It was, for those of you that were out there, it was a little warm on Friday evening. So congratulations to the police department, and we're very grateful for the folks that took the time to set that up. Questions for me?
Anything? Chief, I didn't see any protest about the officials with your budget requests. I appreciate that.
No. Yeah, no.
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
Anything? Thank you so much, and thank you to all the volunteers for us, please.
Thanks.
Would you hit the red button? Make sure it's red. Thank you. Okay. Item 3, public comments and announcements. At this time, we would like to listen to any member of the audience on any subject matter, whether or not that item is on the agenda. All comments are limited to a maximum of 4 minutes for each speaker. Shall be limited to city business or city-related business or matters of general public interest, and shall not include any personal attacks or abusive language. Any disruptive or abusive behavior will result in the removal of the speaker from the council chamber. All public remarks shall be addressed to the chair. Comments should not be directed toward individual council members, city staff, or members of the public. In accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, members may not discuss or take action on any item that has not been posted on the agenda. When your name is called, please come to the podium. State your name and address clearly into the microphone before making your comments. Thank you. I do have a list of names with addresses, and I can read almost all of them. You will have a timer that'll start countdown at 4 minutes, and I will stop at 4 minutes. Remember, this is not a public hearing. This is a regular city council public comment session. Amy Wolfer, Chef Ready, is first on the list. The microphone should be on, but you might double check it, please.
Good evening. I wrote this long before the mayor and the city put up their post today, which was fantastic, by the way. But my name is Amy Sefarati. It's C-E-F-A-R-A-T-T-I. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak because I'm not here to speak either for or against this project. My understanding is that the Lazari track is privately owned, and I respect the property owner's right to pursue a lawful and economically productive use of her land. And Texas law protects those rights, and so should we. At the same time, I understand that a planned unit development gives the council an opportunity to do more than simply approve or reject this warehouse. A PUD exists so the city can solve problems before they become permanent. And that's why I'm grateful this preliminary PUD is back before you for consideration. My request, and I believe the request of many residents, is simple. Please focus your negotiations on measurable impacts of this specific project. Traffic, trucking, the routing, noise, lighting, drainage, public safety, buffering, wildlife protections, and future changes for this use. A PUD should not become a broad entitlement for any warehouse or individual or industrial operation that may come later. It should approve only the development that has actually been studied, presented to the public, and incorporated into the ordinance. The ordinance should clearly identify maximum building size, building height, loading docks, trailer storage, truck access, truck volumes, hazardous material restrictions, overnight operations, and any other operational limits that define this project. Because if a future owner wants to exceed those limits, they should return to the city for a PUD amendment. Traffic deserves more than just general assurances, and the city should require realistic truck projections, peak hour analysis, clearly defined truck routes, and identification of any roadway improvements before final approval. This includes collaboration with the port for GPS routing updates and overhead signage with caution lights. Noise should be treated as an engineering issue, not simply a promise to be a good neighbor. The ordinance should address idling trucks, refrigeration equipment, backup alarms, rooftop mechanical equipment, generators, and nighttime operations. It should establish measurable property line noise standards and provide a process for testing and correction if those standards are exceeded. And lighting should require full cutoff fixtures, downward directed illuminations, shielding, and post-construction verification to protect neighboring properties and preserve Seabrook's character and fundamental values. Drainage, landscaping, screening walls, and dock screening are not cosmetic issues. They directly affect property compatibility, neighborhood character, and long-term maintenance. Those systems should be inspected and maintained through the life of the project, and the footprint clearing should be a thing. Most importantly, every promise made by the developer and every agreement reached within the city should become part of the enforceable PUD ordinance. A presentation should not be and is not an enforceable document. I'm not asking the city to disregard private property rights or require unrelated concessions, but what I am asking the city is to use their lawful leverage it has while this PUD is still under consideration, because the goal should not be to stop development. The goal should be to approve development that is clearly defined, responsibly mitigated, compatible with the surrounding community, and enforceable long after today. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Celeste Rudd.
Good evening, and thank you. Celeste Rudd, 2537 Wild Oak Forest Lane in Seabrook. I'm speaking tonight in strong opposition to the preliminary planned unit development for the large multi-tenant distribution center proposed north of Red Bluff Road. This project would place two warehouses totaling about 670,000 square feet on a 59-acre site next to Public Works, Friendship Park, and Seabrook Wildlife Refuge. On June 18th, the Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing on this request. On July 21st, the City Council held its own public hearing. More than 20 residents spoke against this project. Not one person spoke in favor. A motion to approve it failed because it did not receive a second. That record of resident opposition should carry real weight. This project conflicts with Seabrook's own comprehensive master plan, charting the course 2040. The property sits across two different planning districts. The northern part is in the office warehouse district, and the southern in the Red Bluff district. The city's own description of Red Bluff district says it should create a smooth transition from single-family residential neighborhoods to the industrial areas farther north. The northeastern section is supposed to contain neighborhoods serving commercial uses that act as a buffer. The southeastern section prioritizes single-family homes and supporting amenities such as parks and trails. Large multi-tenant distribution warehouses that extend into the Red Bluff district and into C1 and C2 zoning areas directly conflict with that buffering and neighborhood serving purpose. Where the warehouse use is also not allowed by right on the entire site. We've already covered that in part, but it is only allowed in the light industrial district. The developer is requesting a planned unit development precisely because the project crosses three different zoning classifications in two planning districts. A PUD is supposed to create one, a more desirable environment. Two, allow for common open space. And three, encourage innovative design. Using the PUD mainly to authorize an industrial use that is not permitted in the commercial zones is not a proper use of the tool. It is a way to work around the normal rezoning process. The project depends on infrastructure that is not yet there. It's not finished. The primary truck access is planned to use the future Port of Houston Bayport Southern Access Road. That road is still under construction and is not expected to be fully operational until sometime in 2027 or maybe 2028. Until it is complete and properly connected, trucks will have very limited options. Red Bluff is already a very busy corridor. Adding distribution center traffic will increase congestion, slow emergency response, and raise the risk of cut-through traffic in nearby neighborhoods. The site is also close to homes, Friendship Park, Baybrook Park, and the Wildlife Refuge. This raises real safety concerns for pedestrians and cyclists. This is also a flood-prone coastal community. Harris County is still building detention projects in the Genoa Red Bluff and Armand Bayou systems. Large amounts of new pavement increase the volume and speed of stormwater runoff into drainage systems that are already under pressure. Seabrook participates in federal community rating programs, and we earn a 15% discount on flood insurance. Our insurance could increase because of the additional problems that this faces, not to mention the additional hazards. Thank you for the time.
Next, we have Ed Klein.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Ed Klein, 2529 Duloc Trace. Mayor and Council, I want to thank you for your hard work and outstanding communication. And a special thanks to the Mayor for his three-part Just the Facts Facebook summary of the warehouse proposal and for his 90-second summaries after each council meetings. With respect to the warehouse proposal, I'm in favor of approving it. P&Z vetted the proposal with many comments, and the questions were answered by the developer and considerations made. This is not the first warehouse in Seabrook. 2 have been completed and 1 is being built now, although this is the first warehouse to be considered adjacent to Red Bluff. All are adjacent to the port property. There is no impact to Seabrook trails, and perhaps council can talk about trail improvements being considered by the port. During my term on council, we had discussions about this part of Seabrook. No one wanted to live close to the port, so this area was zoned residential south of Red Bluff and commercial north of it. The idea was to provide a buffer for residential property. The property owner wants to sell the land, and the developer has made an effort to make the property and building appealing with 2 detention ponds and landscaping and access via the new port road. Approving the proposal will make good use of the land, bring jobs to our area, and provide financial gain. Disapproving this proposal has ramifications. Certainly, the property could stay as is, but the property owner is motivated to sell it. The city could buy it, but for what purpose? Seabrook has outstanding trails and parks sufficient for its size. Perhaps a manufacturing machine shop would buy it. Adjacent homeowners may prefer the warehouse with no traffic to a manufacturing facility that does use Red Bluff as its access. Maybe the port is interested in buying it, in which case Seabrook would lose control over the land and its use. I can certainly understand the reluctance of residents to continue development. This city has been my home for 24 years, like many of us. I've seen it change and grow to anyone's dismay, but what hasn't changed is a small town feeling, enjoying the sea breezes, walking the trails, and relaxing in the parks. This is why we love Seabrook. The amount of land to develop has dwindled to only a few parcels. Cost of land, location, and sufficient rooftops are key considerations to generate a successful business, which is why land that we may consider prime for development continues to stay vacant. This particular property would not support a commercial entity relying on residential customers. Too many marketing factors against it. In this case, we need to do our best to avoid port encroachment, and approving this proposal keeps us in control. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next, I have Melanie Bentley.
Hello. My name is Melanie Bentley, 1434 Cottage Cove Court. I'm here to speak about the warehouse project, but more importantly, to address Constellation Property Developers. I took the time to go into their website and counted on their website 33 properties listed empty, unleased, they're empty. It is my opinion Constellation is a speculative, predatory developer who saw an opportunity to prey on a desperate landowner exhausted by years of litigation. They also saw a city willing to approve more industrial product despite clear resident opposition and existing empty warehouses in the area. Constellation is pushing rezoning and PUD approval while ownership issues of land may remain unresolved. What if a cloud of title is on the land and Constellation continues developing, and then over in appeal, they lose everything, and Constellation walks away mid-project? Then tax-paying Seabrook residents will be the victims of an unscrupulous developer, contractors that the city of Seabrook professes to be protecting us from. Seabrook residents could be left with a half-built industrial site, drainage issues, safety hazards, and years of legal limbo for for the city of Seabrook. Residents will live with the consequences long after a predatory developer like Constellation has moved on to its next suckers. Empty buildings do not deliver the full property tax revenue the city is being sold by the developer, and in turn is trying to sell us. Seabrook has been approached by a well-capitalized speculative predatory developer that builds first in hopes to lease later. Residents who actually live here see the pattern of empty warehouse, traffic impacts of noise, and permanent change to our neighborhoods. I am not anti-development. I am being used as a dumping ground for Seabrook's speculative ventures. Constellation saw Seabrook and the landowners that they claim to be under contract with as easy pickings. After being attacked in my own home, in my own bedroom, by a Seabrook employee, Seabrook professed to me that they're here to protect its residents from predatory developers and contractors. So protect us. Our property rights, our neighborhoods, our quality of life is not for sale to the highest speculative bidder that comes across your desk. Seabrook didn't even have to entertain this proposal. Instead, Seabrook piled on with the speculative developer with fear-mongering of eminent domain. I don't believe it. I want to hear it from the port. I want it backed up with researchable facts. Any information that Seabrook people claiming authority give me, I will be researching for its validity. No, I'm not done.
Melanie, your time is up. Ma'am, you're out of order. Your time is up. Ma'am, you may leave the room. Chief, please escort her out of the room. Shame on you.
You're here to protect us!
Chief,
Go ahead and take me! You're here to protect us!
Out of order.
Not developers! I don't care how out of order I am.
Ma'am,
I
this
was
is not the-
attacked in my
this is-
house.
this
I
is
have
not
been
the way to do
attacked
this.
by Seabrook.
Come on, I need you to go. Come on, this is not the way to do this.
Give me 2 seconds to turn around.
Yes, ma'am.
Order, please. Jeff Gillis is next, please.
My name is Jeff Gillis, and I live at 2309 Waterway in Lake Cove. I'm here once again this evening to express my strong opposition to the proposed POD for new warehouses along Red Bluff Road. What I'd like to discuss briefly tonight is the City of Seabrook 2040 Comprehensive Master Plan Update, which was adopted and codified in October 2022. As part of the plan's development, the survey of residents was conducted. The major themes included preserving Seabrook's small-town feel, enhancing and protecting Seabrook's community character and identity, attracting unique commercial development, and enhancing pedestrian connectivity across the city. In the survey, a third of respondents listed our parks and natural areas as something that makes Seabrook distinguishable from nearby communities. Curiously, there was no mention of replacing undeveloped natural land with vacant warehouses, and the survey responses as something considered desirable. I'm quoting from the document. Seabrook is well known and admired for its quality park amenities, trail network, and natural areas. In both open space and parks master plan and the comprehensive master plan, the city's natural areas were identified as key community assets that should remain prominent components of Seabrook's identity in the face of growth. Let me repeat that. The city's natural areas were identified as key community assets that should remain prominent components of Seabrook's identity in the face of growth. The master plan identified several districts for targeted growth, including the Red Bluff District, which occupies both sides of Red Bluff Road from State Highway 146 to Friendship Park. More than half of the proposed PUD is in this district. Again, I'm quoting from the master plan. The Red Bluff District provides a transition from residential areas to warehousing and port-related uses. This area will allow for a mixture of neighborhood commercial mixed uses and residential uses. The land uses in this district are intended to buffer heavier uses in the north of the city from residential uses in the south, with a focus on neighborhood-serving businesses and community amenities. Under this document's definitions, a distribution warehouse is light industrial, not commercial, and is therefore not currently allowed in the Red Bluff District. My question to the council as you deliberate whether to approve this PUD is, what neighborhood-serving businesses or community amenities do these warehouses provide? There is nothing unique to the benefit the community about another vacant warehouse. As a data point, the Southeast Logistics Corridor serving the port has about 86 million square feet of distribution warehouse space, nearly 10 million of which is currently vacant. I respect the property owner's interest in developing this land, but any development should follow our existing master plan and zoning ordinance, and ideally provide something that benefits our community beyond property tax revenue. To clarify a point I raised last week, the developer estimated that these warehouses would generate about $350,000 per year in tax revenue for Seabrook. If Seabrook's 3,450 single-family detached homes lost just 6% of their value because of further port encroachment, the city would lose the same amount in annual tax revenue. This year, Seabrook's single-family homes are spending 25% longer on the market than in prior years, a weaker trend than in neighboring communities such as Clear Lake City, Kemah, and El Lago. This is a leading indicator of a future drop in home prices in Seabrook. How does City Council plan to reverse this trend? By benefiting a landowner and developer who do not even live here, or by instead making decisions that primarily benefit Seabrook residents? For example, has the city explored available grants to acquire this land and expand Pine Gully Park and nature trails such as the federal government recreational trails program or the Texas Parks and Wildlife Local Parks grants?
Thank you, Jeff, for your time.
Thank you.
I think this is an L. Kevin Lilly, is that correct? Thank you.
My name, once again, is Kevin Lilly. I live at 1825 Wallington Lane, which for those that may not realize, that is east of 146. Anytime I leave the home to get to 146, typically it's down Red Bluff, okay? I'm gonna ask a question tonight. Why do we have to keep coming back to this issue? We've been fighting this for 5 years or more. I know the last mayor was very much in favor and finally admitted in front of everybody here that he was the only one in favor and disappointed in Seabrook. But those of us that live east of 146, there's reasons why we bought there. And to me, our city administration could be doing a better job working with the developers, working with the homeowner that wants to sell their property for big bucks. When we bought our house in 2002, I could go down Park and I would see nothing but trees. Now when I leave to get to Red Bluff, what do I see? The plant. Yes, the city did put up a 4-foot berm, 10-foot wide, and yes, they did originally plant oleanders. Somebody needs to go look at that. I hate to use the word, but it looks like shit every time I leave the neighborhood. You got 2 oleanders and they're dying. You go down Red Bluff. Right after our last meeting here, what happened within a couple days? You had a truck make a wrong turn, block all of Red Bluff. Typically, I would assume it takes about 2 hours to get that truck out of a situation. How many times has that happened in the last 5 years? I know I've come down 3 times and then have to figure out a way to back out of it, okay? The developer, he wants to come in. Come in with a freaking better plan. If you want to build off Red Bluff, have a 100-foot, 100-yard buffer zone where you're not taking down any more trees. That's one way. Have your infrastructure in place. Have the Newport Road built. No construction of the warehouse should start until that road is started. You know, they said, oh, we'll have to come down Red Bluff to start our construction. No, that interferes. Then you end up with busted windshields and everything else, a mess. Fix from old 146 to 140, the other side of 146, that intersection is a mess every day. God help us if we have a hurricane anytime soon. People ain't gonna be able to get out of Seabrook. I don't know how many of you lived here back in Rita, but I sat on 146 at 1 o'clock in the morning for 2 hours trying to go north, which is normally a 5-minute ride. But I'm gonna ask City Council, you need to force your administration to work with these developers before we get to this situation. We are dividing this city, the people. You got your Lakewood Yacht Club and the west side of 146 and the east side, and that's not good for the city. You see it every day on Facebook and all the other mess. Too much name calling, too much stuff out on Facebook. We're not working together, and you should be. The administration needs to work for the citizens, not the developers. Thank you.
Next, I have Kelly Stewart.
Good evening, Kelly Stewart. I wanted to email the port, the commissioners, and ask them some questions, and I did. So I'm going to hand out what my response they gave me. So I'm going to read the response I got. I emailed all the commissioners, and I got a response from Maria Aguiar, who is Port Houston Public Affairs. She said, "Thank you for reaching out to us with your questions. We are aware of the discussions currently happening in Seabrook and are happy to address your questions below. My question, has Port Houston had any discussions regarding acquiring or partnering in the development of the Lazari tract? No, we have not and don't expect to. Is this property part of any current or long-range strategic planning, freight planning, or future expansion efforts? It is not, and we don't expect it to be. Does Port Houston anticipate any need or interest in this property in the foreseeable future? Answer, no. If discussions have occurred but cannot be disclosed publicly, are you able to confirm whether residents should consider the possibility of Port Houston acquiring this property as a realistic factor in this decision? No, they shouldn't. Is there any information that you believe the residents of Seabrook should consider as we evaluate the future of this property? She says the property in question does not belong to Port Houston nor the development, so we cannot weigh in on this. But we recommend continued engagement with city leadership. The rest of it is more about the access to Port Road, but I just wanted that to be on the record for the people to understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Malcorn.
Good evening, Council. I was originally going to talk about, one of the issues I was going to talk about was this, the PUD and the Lazari tract development, but it sounds like you've heard of quite a bit. And one of the things I did want to mention is that the only rhetoric that I've heard in support of it was that, you know, we could lose this to the port and we would lose our control of it, but that sounds like they're not even interested in it. The other thing was the tax money, but again, the tax money doesn't come unless somebody occupies it. Doesn't sound like that's going to happen. There's not a current occupant for the warehouse, and there's a lot of warehouses in the area that do sit vacant. So I think, you know, this is a very large development as compared to the available undeveloped land in Seabrook. So this is probably going to be the largest development if it goes through that the Seabrook ever sees again. So with that in mind, you know, I think if it goes through, we lose out on it. You could say we might lose it to the port, but we do invite them in at that point, especially if it's under heavy industry use, because it wouldn't keep them out at that point. It's like you're saying here's an avenue for you to go. Otherwise, they would have to buy it, or take it over, or however you want to do it. But you're actually inviting them in with a development like this, especially if you zone it for heavy industrial use. And we're going to lose out on any other kind of possible development for that area. So my opinion is that we strongly adhere to the master plan. I actually like the way it was set up. Having a buffer there as big as it can be between the industrial area and the residential area makes the most sense. Even if they were willing to break it up, but the current zoning is actually what you'd like for that area. But the real reason I wanted to come up here was to talk about some of the economic development plans in Seabrook. I spent a lot of time in Kemah and Clear Lake Shores for business and pleasure, and one of the things that makes their success really prevalent is that how easy it is to get in to park somewhere and then visit all the other businesses, whether on bike, whether walking, on golf cart, or e-bikes, or whatever, what have you. We don't really have it set up that way in Seabrook, and I would hope that we could do something like that so that you can actually have easier access to all our commercial districts. But it seems like when you look at the actual plan and the way things are set up, we actually have laws on the books that are obstacles to that. One of them is for the golf carting, there's a 30-mile-per-hour law, which is not. But the state says that it's 35, but for some reason we have it as 30. So there is actually no way for anybody in a golf cart to get across 146 into the west side. So we can't go from Old Seabrook to Margarita Jones. We can't go, and when now you got the edge coming in over here, where there's no way to go for the edge to come over and go to visit Old Seabrook, or vice versa. They can't even get to the water unless they wanted to, deal with the traffic. There's nothing like that. You got to get in the car. So. And I know we had the Repsdorf and East Meyer actually seemed like the best location for a crossing, and you actually there was a fatal accident there not too long ago. One of the other ones is that we're against containers here and food trucks, which I wasn't sure about. I would think you'd want food trucks as part of economic development, or at least businesses coming in here and using it. But the containers especially seems like a silly one. Given that we're trying to invite warehouses, because we're going to actually end up with a lot of containers in that area. So it doesn't make any sense to have that on the books. So I don't think none of these things, these contradictions and inconsistencies don't make, in the policy that we have, doesn't make it easier for any of the current citizens or the visitors and new residents and businesses that we want to attract. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have Joe McCall next on the list.
Joe McCall, a resident in Seabrook for 59 years. So 2 weeks ago, you had a meeting at 5 o'clock p.m. talking about some guy who's auditor came in and gave a 50,000-foot view or a 40,000-foot view. So let's break that down. 50,000-foot view is 9.47 miles. A 40,000-foot view is 7.576 miles. You can't see a human at 3 miles. So obviously, when he looked at it, he really didn't look at it. But glaringly, he found that there was something wrong with how they did the swimming pool contract. Interesting. So when you didn't get 3 bids, it's not just a mistake, it's actually a crime. The crime is Texas Local Government Code 252.021. And because of that, the contract can be declared void or enjoined. And what happens for that is you get removed from office or you're fired. You get 180 days in jail and a $2,000 fine. It's actually a pretty serious deal. So that's the penalties for not doing that. And one other thing that you can't do is claim ignorance. Can't do that. So
the attorney I talked to at Dairy Queen told me all this. So I thought that was actually pretty interesting. So this Dairy Queen thing is coming in pretty handy. So, and oh, by the way, if you're on council and you just try to want to wash this under the rug, you can lose your qualified immunity, which I think on this one you don't even get, and you're guilty of this too. The other thing is, if there's 3 people that we find out,
making accusations, Joe.
hey, don't interrupt me when I'm talking.
I like your shirt, though.
Don't interrupt me when I'm talking. I know you love this shirt. It's an awesome shirt. It says, "You just need to shut up." That's what it says. Pretty interesting. So again, you keep interrupting me. I mean, you kicked the lady out doing that. Why do you do that? You can't do that.
You can't.
It's
interrupt
against the
meeting,
law.
Joe. There are rules, Joe. Rules.
I understand. Yeah, and you obviously broke them. Didn't get 3 bids. That's a crime. Big time crime. So, and so that's enough on that. So again, we've had one person come up and talk, didn't even live in this city. That's weird. It's just bizarre. Then we had another one came up who voted no for this 5 years ago. We all voted 7-0 5 years ago for this thing. And I love it how we have this. I made a motion to approve and then it wasn't seconded. You can make a motion to not approve, get a second, and then discuss it. Why didn't that happen? But you know what? I don't have to remind you of that because everyone here is against this. They don't want it. They don't want this this warehouse that's 3 football fields long, 3 football fields wide, and it's just going to be a big eyesore. No one wants it. It's really simple. And maybe the mayor needs to go to have etiquette school and find out what is legal and illegal to do at council when you interrupt speakers.
Way to go, Joe. Gary Renola. Gary Renola. Sorry, Gary. I didn't have my speaker on.
My name's Gary Renola, 4530 Tharp, Seabrook, Texas. I've been a resident for 34 years, so I've seen a lot of come and go, particularly around the port. I want to thank City Council and Mayor. I know these last 2 meetings have been difficult with strong emotions on all sides. I appreciate the time you spent listening to the community, and I trust you'll find the right balance. I'm speaking in strong support, and I know I'm not alone, although there may not be as many here to that extent. Seabrook has very few remaining opportunities to attract the level of commercial tax revenue that can meet our future needs and decrease the tax burden of our residents. Quality development of a few remaining large tracts is critical. There's also an important history behind this property. The land has been on the market for many years, dating back to when I served on council. During that time, Robin Riley worked to attract alternatives such as a theme park, entertainment venue, concert facility, that would provide a buffer to the Port of Houston. The location, traffic, and proximity to the port simply made these types of developments unrealistic. As long as this property remains available, nothing prevents the Port of Houston Authority from purchasing or condemning it in the future. I started on City Council because our fight against the port, and I'm sorry that there are people who actually would believe what the port said in an email from a non-voting member. That's a public affairs comment. I don't believe it. If that happens, the city would have far less ability if the port bought it to influence buffering, traffic management, and development standards than it does this planned unit development. For more than 20 years, one of the primary concerns with infill development has been ensuring adequate buffering. Those issues were discussed extensively by planning and zoning, and I believe the resulting PUD addresses them in a meaningful and enforceable ways. A few points deserve emphasis. A portion of the site is already zoned light industrial where warehouses were are permitted by right. A large part of the PUD encroaches into property that's zoned C1 and C2, but a large part of that encroachment is really buffering. And so that's what's helpful about this, the way it's designed. And so the landscaping, paving, depentering, and buffering provide a good barrier against encroachment of sound and light. Truck traffic will not be routed down Red Bluff. The PUD provides us.
We'll maintain decorum, please.
Do I get to reclaim my time? So for those who are screaming, the PUD's clear on this. And I think the mayor made some comments from staff to that effect. With truck routing, signage enforcement, and cooperation between the developer and city staff, I believe truck traffic on Red Bluff can be effectively prevented. Traffic on Red Bluff Road and Highway 146 is already congested, and continued expansion of the port will only increase traffic over time. There's a reason they're building that port road. It's because of the traffic they expect in that intersection. That's independent of this development. This development contributes only to a small portion of the overall traffic in the corridor. So I will also add there's 250 feet of buffering from somebody's backyard into the port property. So that's a pretty large buffering, considering most of our buffering is 50 feet into commercial and residential.
Thank you, Gary.
No demand, no proposal is perfect. I think this has the right balance.
If you continue interrupting, I'll have the room cleared. Please don't interrupt.
Did I say something?
No.
Okay, sorry.
Bill Henry.
Howdy, my name is Bill Henry. I live at 4428 Shady Lake Drive. I didn't plan to come out tonight, but I want to recognize Mayor Sweeney for the factual comments that in the three-part series. That's what got me out here. I've lived in Seabrook for 61 years, left at times for work, retired, came back here, and this is the town I want to live in. I convinced my 4 kids that, and grandkids that it would be a good place to live as well. So when I saw the planned development that I've heard earlier remarks about, back when TxDOT was doing the work on 146 and Red Bluff, I said, yeah, this is going the right direction. We've got major parks connecting Bay Area, down Red Bluff, right through to Pine Gully Park, which I have relatives buried there. So I bought 5 parcels, kind of bored in my retirement, laid down $2 million, gave $60,000 to you guys for the right to build 5 houses. I'm still working away. I changed out of my work clothes so I can come down here tonight. But it doesn't seem like it's going that way. So what do I tell my grandchildren when they have to wake up at 3 in the morning for the truck traffic the gentleman just spoke about doesn't exist? Let me assure you, it wasn't there before Red Bluff was expanded. And we all know what's happening down Red Bluff on the other side of the line. So yes, I'm speaking in opposition to the PUD tonight. I'm speaking for my grandchildren and my kids, who I just finished my little hobby of helping the tax basis for what this property down here is zoned for. I'm happy to continue my endeavors if you go in the right directions, but it won't be for a freezer warehouse. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I think we have Scott Reynolds next.
All right, Scott Reynolds, 3918 Breezeway Drive, here in Seabrook. I, like many people, came to this city because of my family's enjoyment of the atmosphere, the neighborhood feel, and the community. I also came to this community because it has it allows its citizens to speak their minds, to be heard, and to listen. And in this case, I look at this situation and there are rules, there are laws as to how we can proceed. And there are also accommodations that can be made through a PUD and other documents. But the bottom line is this effort can probably find a successful compromise. However, it must come with compromises. And they can be in barriers, trees, maintaining landscaping, eliminating the truck traffic on Red Bluff, et cetera. And those are the things that both the P&Z committee as well as the council can focus on and bring this forward to the community. So I just want to keep it short and to the point, but support the direction that we're talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That's all I have on the list. Did anybody not get a chance to sign up in the lobby? And state your name, since you're not on the list, if you state your name and address so that, yes, so that Mandy can get you.
My name is Veronica Brumbaugh. I live at 2229 LeBeau Lane in Lake Cove. I'm actually showing up here despite a chronic illness that usually prevents me from showing up because I feel like I have a unique point of view. And frankly, I expect not to be very popular with anybody after I make my comments, but that's okay because I want this to be heard by both sides. I have mixed feelings on the PUD. On the one hand, I do envision a possible outcome that could be successfully implemented. I'd like to hear the developer out as far as what compromises they're willing to make to really benefit the city of Seabrook and not just push this warehouse plan as it sits right now, because right now I don't see that it aligns with our master plan. On the other hand, there's been a lot of speakers who brought up very valid concerns tonight. First of all, I think there could have been better advertising of the public hearing in the first place. You know, when we asked about this on Facebook, somebody said, I suggested a Q&A, somebody else said, why aren't we having a public hearing instead of a council meeting? You know, when Santa Fe had a big development going in an area that was cattle grazing land, they had a giant sign outside. And I feel like we could have gotten a lot more and better engagement earlier while the developer was investing money in these preliminary plans, because that does represent a substantial investment. That should have happened earlier, but that's water under the bridge. So what I would like to see as far as compromises would be strong, enforceable, measurable, quantitative requirements for traffic, for noise, for lighting, and for emissions. I also expect this to be tied to port progress. I want us to uphold the values and the goals of the Red Bluff District, in particular, for example, by locating the pond along Red Bluff Road to create a park-like setting that enhances rather than detracts that area for the people who live there and drive that road every single day. I expect mature trees to be preserved. I expect job assurances, which Jim and I had a nice conversation about already with some ideas in the works for that. I would like to see obligatory tenancy and construction milestones that we intend to strictly enforce. If they start slipping on their milestones, or if they cannot demonstrate that they're going to have tenants in this building, we need to pull the plug. We need to be prepared to do that. But if I can just leave the council with one thought, it's this. The city of Seabrook has an obligation to the residents and to the businesses that are already here, already paying taxes and already speaking their minds at meetings like this. Just because a developer presents a plan with a viable commercial endeavor and that's plan is going to create a favorable sale for a single landowner does not obligate the city to create that opportunity when that proposed project violates and undermines the existing master plan and violates the stated goals of each district for our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, that was Veronica. Is there anyone else? Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for who came out to speak tonight. Item 3.1, Mayor, City Council, and/or members of the city staff may make announcements about city or community events.
Ready? Okay, we have movie night at Meadow Park. Please join us for a fun movie night featuring Hoppers. Bring some extra school supplies for a chance to win a rooftop cinema club voucher. This will be taking place this Saturday, August the 8th, from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the park. We also invite the community to a community open house to discuss Seabrook zoning ordinance updates. Come and find out more about the zoning ordinance and zoning map updates. The date for that is Wednesday, August the 12th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Public Works Complex. For more information, you can go to www.seabrookzoningupdate.com. We will be having the Pelican Bay ribbon cutting ceremony. Please join the City of Seabrook as we cut the ribbon for the new and improved Pelican Bay pool. Stick around for a one-day only open swim. Admission is free, but capacity is limited. This is going to take place on Saturday, August the 22nd from 2 to 6 p.m. at the new Pelican Bay pool. And finally, Bingo with Badges. Please join the City of Seabrook for the second annual Bingo with Badges, a family-friendly evening featuring bingo, prizes, and opportunities to meet our local first responders. This is going to take place on Friday, August the 28th from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at the Seabrook Community House. That's it.
Got it. Thank you. Any other announcements that we missed? Jared, anything on your end? No. Okay. Angela? No. All right, thank you. Item 3.2, City Manager Update and Report to City Council on various items that require no action, including Seabrook boards and commissions, transportation projects, capital projects, and other city projects.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Your boards and commissions, since you last left or last met, had the July 23rd meeting for your EDC. They looked at their 26-27 budget, approved that, and has scheduled a public hearing that will be held at the Economic Development Corporation meeting on August 13th. That will then come over back to City Council. For upcoming meetings, there's quite a few. Your Parks and Trails Committee will be looking at a number of items on their August 6th upcoming meeting, including recommendation discussions on the Carruthers Gardens East Track, Bayside Park Project, Hanson Pocket Park, painting of trash bins in the parks, creation of the outdoor classroom, and the development of an app as it pertains to the city parks and trails. Mentioned previously, we have a community open house on August 12th, and we also, there's not an agenda posted yet, but upcoming Economic Development Corporation meeting on August 13th. On transportation, we are continuing to work on bringing you forward the second sound study in the 146 and Red Bluff corridor. We are scheduling with the sound technicians to come on September 1st so that we can have a further discussion on both of those sound studies. Our CIP, our Pine Gully Pier staff met with the contractor today as they're continuing to get ready to set up the laydown yard and the mobilization to start in that area. Your East Meyer project has completed the phase 2, which is the westbound lane pour to North Meyer, and are preparing to go from North Meyer over to Toddville. And just as a recap, this will also include a sidewalk on the side where Gale's Feed Store is to interconnect with the sidewalk that we have all along East Meyer. So this will give connectivity east to west along East Meyer after its completion. Our EMS and EOC building facility has restarted. We've got some vertical and notable beams that are now in place, so we're making some strides. We are continuing to work through a few change orders and the surety company on this. So once the new contractor did take over, there are some items that they were not able to identify during the bidding process, so we are working with the surety company, and they're engaging that. This project is now targeted around November 19th to be substantially completed. Over here on Main Street is the demolition. I know we've had a lot of truck traffic here on Main Street. We've gotten all of the soil remediation, and now the grade fill dirt is going back in to do the preparatory fill and get it ready for the park. So we are looking at fencing coming down and eventually the berm removal, but it is starting to level out. Last week, I think at the end of the week, it was more like a bowl, so starting to get more of an even grade at this point. And this is just a recap of the still conceptual design. Staff's working with the consultant team on the design construction portion of this park, and so they're going to be moving over towards the park board first and then coming back for presentation to the city council. So it's taken a little bit longer. We did proceed as authorized by City Council to move forward with Texas Parks and Wildlife Grant, and that grant was submitted this week as well. Pelican Bay Pool, this week the cool deck is being laid and will be painted probably towards the end of the week. Restrooms have been remodeled, or it's still in progress, and we're still looking at a mid-August completion. Your Rural Street Preventive Maintenance Program, we did a number of streets throughout the city with the asphalt and the HA5 overlay. Those have been completed. And that concludes my report, and I'll take any questions.
Okay, I have a question. The July 4th, they did have that special Pelican for the 250. Has there been any more discussion about a potential location for it?
There has not. I'll check in. Did you have a suggestion?
Yeah, I was thinking one of the days when I was walking around, I thought that would be a real great spot at the Bay Area Veterans Memorial. And I have a Pelican there, just to kind of, for the 250th birthday of our country, maybe name it 250, and just kind of come up with a cute name for it. And I just thought that would be a pretty good location for that Pelican.
Okay, I'll check into that. Thank you.
So you, excuse me, sorry. On Meyer, when you said that second phase of completion is done, when are we going to be evaluating that road? Because it's still a horrible drive.
So right now, staff, we're working on some options to bring forward, but the completion of this is in October, I believe. That will be fully complete. Stripe, they'll pull all the section joints, and so at that point, we would expect that council would re-engage in that conversation if you want us to go further with any mitigation once the project's complete. But we would like the contractor to get completely done with the project and then let council evaluate that.
So August, you said around August?
October.
October, geez,
Yep.
okay. And then the second question on that asphalt overlay, was that just a pour or was that actual asphalt? I was approached and someone asked me that question because they said there's still some pretty deep cracks in some of those areas on Meyer.
It is. Brian, I'll let Brian kind of speak to the process.
So we got with the HA5 is a proprietary company. We got with them first, and they helped us identify locations where we had to do point repairs, which would be the full 2-inch asphalt removal, asphalt replacement. Everywhere else that got HA5, they were confident that their warranty would pertain, and all they did was put 2 coats of their HA5 product on top.
So if, and I haven't seen it myself, this is just something actually I was approached about after I left here earlier. Can I get you pictures then if I can find out where they were referring to that has those deep cracks still? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
One more question. Is that that's a liquid, right? I assume. It looks like a liquid overlay,
It's a
right?
special liquid that
It will fill in
proprietary
the-
liquid.
Will it fill in the cracks and seal the cracks? Is that?
We did the crack sealing ahead of time, staff did. This would just be a coating on top of everything.
I know what Angela's, I did see that too. There's a few areas where there's cracks, maybe follow up. Thank you. Anything else? Oh, Gail, the lights at the pool, I know Angela was inquiring about, are they shielded or they're going to be shielded?
They did some adjustments. We are having, CenterPoint's having some issues. They had an equipment malfunction at the pool area, so we are running generators right now at the pool, and so those lights are not operational. Once they get back on, we are aware of the complaints. They've done some modifications on the angling, and we'll continue to work to make sure that that is, if it needs to be additional shielding or additional angling, but right now we do not have permanent power.
Thank you. Anything else?
On the topic of lighting, the southbound on Bridge 146, I know some of the lights were out on the side of it. Is that something we've reached out to them about? Or?
I actually noticed that the other day. I will ask TxDOT. I don't know if that had anything to do with the fireworks. I'm not sure, but I will ask. I know some of the under nautical lighting's out as well, so I'll ask that question.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you. Item 4, consent agenda. Item 4.1, approve the minutes of the July 21st, 2026 regular city council meeting. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve?
Councilmember Sanford makes a motion to approve. Second. Second. Councilmember Rogers seconds. All in favor? Opposed? None? Unanimous? Thank you. Okay, new business. Item 5. Item 5.1, consider and take all appropriate action on the approval of North Meyer Avenue Amendment Number 1 to Task Order Number 3 to Duplantis Design Group DDG under the Professional Services Agreement PSA in an amount of $5,000 to add TxDOT permitting to the original engineering contract and authorize the city manager to execute the amendment and all associated documents.
Motion to approve?
Councilmember Hanson makes a motion to approve.
Second.
Sorry, who's that? Moan? Councilmember Deemer makes the second. Are there any questions or any discussion we need to have about this? If not, all in favor? Opposed? None? Unanimous? Thank you. Item 5.2, consider and take all appropriate action on the ratification of performance agreement to assist with commercial facade improvements at the 2120 NASA Parkway between Omcar Group Seabrook, LP, DBA Spring Hill Suites by Marriott, Seabrook, and the Seabrook Economic Development Corporation in an amount not to exceed $40,000.
Motion to approve?
Councilmember Sanford makes a motion to approve.
Second.
Councilmember Hanson seconds the motion. Any discussion or questions about that?
So it's my understanding this is just for the painting of the existing hotel?
It is. They're changing the paint scheme. I think we received a late, oh, there it is.
Okay, as everybody knows, I'm a little color deficient, but what will...
Origami white and Tin Lizzy.
Well, I have no idea what that means.
Looks pretty, guy.
Yeah, kind of a grayish color.
Would that be considered coastal colors?
Kind of coastal, yeah.
Like gray and white.
Gray. Kind of coastal. Yeah.
Okay.
You have other suggestions? Anything else? I think this hotel gives a lot back to the city, and I think this is a deserving improvement for them. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Item 5.3, consider and take all appropriate action on task order number 5 for professional design services under the Master Professional Services Agreement PSA between the City of Seabrook and Duplantis Design Group DDG for the drainage analysis of Baywood Drive and Pine Gully Road and development of improvement projects in an amount not to exceed $50,000 and authorize the city manager to execute all associated documents.
Motion to approve?
Councilmember Deaver makes a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Hanson seconds. Are there any questions for Brian about this project? Everybody knows about it. It's the low points there, Baywood, and also congruent to that at Pine Gully. All right.
So basically, what they're going to be looking at is to be able to build something that will enable those residents to leave their homes in the event of flooding or extra rain that we've been getting, correct?
Yes, that is the purpose. Brian, is that correct?
As best as we can, yes. As much as we can. Raise it as much as.
I don't think that we'll be able to completely mitigate Baywood, but at least they can walk through there and not have to get their Uber Eats on the other side.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
This will address that big rainstorm we had about a month or so ago. That was when all this kind of really came to light, correct? And this in theory should help with that.
It should help. It'll come up with plans on how to address that issue. It'll solve for storm events, but for surge events, it won't help.
Anything else? Hearing nothing further, all in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Item 6, old business. Item 6.1, consider and take all appropriate action on the acceptance and approval of the annual comprehensive financial report and single audit for fiscal year 2024-2025 conducted by Whitley Penn LLP. Motion.
Motion to approve.
Councilmember Hammond makes a motion to approve. Can we have a?
I'll second.
For discussion? Thank you, Councilmember Rogers. Do we have any discussion, questions?
And were they here to do any presentation on it, or?
They did a presentation at the last council meeting.
Okay.
You haven't, this is council discussion now.
Is there a representative here today?
I don't, yes. You have questions?
Yes.
Okay, would you come out to the microphone, please? The one over there on the side, yeah. That way you can see the green red button.
Okay, you guys found an impropriety with the pool, which is fine, but did you find any other issues that would constitute a further audit? Since you are a new auditor coming in for the first time, do you find any other issues that should take a deeper look into the audit?
In terms of a different type of audit over the same time period, or?
Yes.
Not that came to our attention. If there was something of that significance, we would have reported that to you all as well.
You're saying that everything was relatively clean?
Our opinion on the financial statements is a clean opinion, except for the non-compliance matter. And so there's no perfect audit, I'll say that. There's always minor control items to correct going forward, but no major issues that we discovered in our process. If there was a material weakness, which would mean when we got the trial balance, the numbers and all the support, if we discovered a material error, then we would report that to y'all. Or even if there's not a material error, but there's a gap in controls that could lead to a material issue, then we would disclose that to you all. As far as the corrections that were made that were discovered by us during the audit, we'll provide you a list of those, but they weren't, I'll say there was nothing concerning when I go and look through that list. Pretty typical or standard corrections that we do see in a lot of our city audits. So hopefully that answers your question.
That does, thank you.
I have a question. This is more for Gail. Based off of they came on the last audit, like the city has put like controls in place now for in the future ways to avoid the discrepancy that was discovered, correct?
We have. We're working with the new director to come up with not only a SOP for this particular issue, but a full manual of SOPs so that we will have that in the background.
Okay, thank you.
Angela, and then Byron.
Yeah, I know I asked this last time, but just to confirm, this is a high-level audit. It doesn't do any deep dives, and it doesn't, get into the nitty-gritty, right? It's just a very high-level surface review.
So it depends on who's taking or look at it. It depends on who's asking that question, I guess, because it is a very detailed audit, but there's different scopes that can go into an audit. So sometimes we're engaged to do something very specific, and we may be engaged to do an audit of 1,000 transactions, and we're looking at 1,000 transactions. So that's not what a financial statement audit is, an annual financial statement audit. Within an annual financial statement audit, we develop a materiality for each area based on a risk assessment, and items that are material or have the risk of being material we perform procedures on those. And so it's not a 100% test, so it's not detailed to that extent, but it is still very detailed to where we look at really every department, very controls. We do a lot of sampling, and a lot of work does go into it. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Byron?
So looking at the single audit report document, I think it was page 8, I just want to go, some things that stood out to me. Although the purchases were made through authorized cooperative purchasing programs, it looks like there were some corrective steps taken and perhaps detailed what was the non-compliance. It looks like it references data points. To address this matter, implemented updated internal standards, operating procedures requiring verification of the cooperative contract, documentation of the applicable contract number, confirmation that the procurement falls within the scope and term of the cooperative agreement, and retention of all supporting contract documentation in the procurement file prior to the approval. So it really was just making sure those documents were held together. Was what was in non-compliance? Or that's what I'm trying to understand, what was out of compliance? What was the issue with it?
Okay, so the actual non-compliance was, I guess, awarding the design build contract without following the design build requirements that are laid out in the the state law that you have to follow. And so what a cooperative typically does is you can purchase, the cooperative will go out and do the bidding for you for multiple entities. So they'll go out and do all those requirements for procurements. But typically those are for supplies and things, so that they'll supply a price list with the vendor you get it from because they already found you the best price. And so in the case of a design build contract, there's a lot, it's very specific. The scope is very specific. And so part of a design build contract it falls under more of a professional services, and those are exempt from competitive bidding. So architects and engineers and such. But then the actual construction piece of it is something that is typically goes through a bidding process. And so that's the part of it that really was missing, is that competitive bidding process, to where even if you were to use professional services for the engineering architecture side, then you would want to do the bidding to get the best price on who does the actual construction.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I ask a question? You made a recommendation then to staff so that this doesn't occur in the future, is that right? And they're in the process, as you understand, of correcting that action for future processes?
Yes, correct. And that's what the views of responsible officials really covers, the plan going forward and steps to avoid this from happening again. And they've worked with the cooperative to determine what type of documents they provide that will address this issue. And so they have that nailed down on what to do going forward.
Okay.
Final question. Did you guys, because I know the pool, that was something we were told that was going to be brought to y'all's attention after it was recognized, but did you guys do any other samplings of co-ops or other large-scale project contracts that Seabrook has engaged in?
So yes, we do. As part of our normal procedures, we select samples from vendors that you expend over the state threshold, which in this case was 100,000. Newly, it just went up to 100,000. So we probably actually did 50,000 this past year. But we select a sample already, usually about 10 different vendors or so. And it's our first year, so we didn't have any to go off of last year, but we are aware of ones that are typically on cooperatives. And so, we base our samples on that. And so once we did discover this issue, we did scan the register for any more that looked similar to this to pick if we needed to, but we didn't identify any other issues similar to this one.
If I could make a suggestion, and of course the agenda item is to accept the audit as reported, but that we could also amend that to require staff to report back to us on a quarterly basis on the efforts that they're making toward completing the SOP procedures, just as a matter of us as oversight.
I'd like to make that amendment. So, second.
All in favor of that? Yeah. So, do we have any further discussion before we go back to the main amendment? Okay, so the question then is for 6.1, accepting the approval of the annual comprehensive financial report and single audit for fiscal year 2024-25 with the caveat that staff reports back to council on a quarterly basis, and we would direct the city secretary to schedule that for us so that we don't have to worry about it coming up. Anything else? Good? All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Item 6.2, consider take all appropriate action on a request for approval of a preliminary planned unit development preliminary PUD to create a local support multi-tenant distribution center consisting of an approximately 464,400 square foot warehouse and an approximately 205,200 square foot warehouse. Councilmember Deemer and Rogers brought that up for discussion.
Motion to approve.
Councilmember Deemer makes motion to approve.
I'll second.
Councilmember Rogers makes a second, and that allows us to discuss the item. Does anyone have anything to, I mean, I have a short list, but I'd like to hear from everybody else too. Thank you.
It's the colors again. I'd like the developers to go back and, since they are so close to residential communities, seeing what kind of restrictions they could put on hazardous materials within the area or within the their customer base, basically.
Sean, could I ask you to come up and maybe address a couple of these items like that?
So I have some exhibits here up for you guys kind of to discuss. So on that topic, historically, as we've built these PUD documents for warehousing, there is a list of prohibitions that are currently in our zoning ordinance. And so this is the list that we currently have. And it pretty much prohibits any type of inorganic or organic compounds associated with chemical industry. So and then the rail facilities, shipping containers, air quality, it addresses all the issues that keep this where it qualifies as a warehouse, that they're not holding hazardous materials in, and also prohibits any heavy manufacturing, because within our LI zoning currently, there is no allowance for heavy manufacturing or industry-like type uses. So really will be prescribed to a warehouse use. This would be kind of the information that historically we would put in the PUD document. It's what I would recommend that we would continue to do in the future.
So because there was a question from the audience about shipping containers, I see that's addressed there in item 3. We allow shipping containers if they're on the truck loading or unloading, but not stored on site or whatever.
That's correct. So we currently have a prohibition against shipping containers, so there wouldn't be any, there was some concern earlier that there would be stacking of containers at that site. Our current prohibition within our zoning ordinances, you can't have any stacking of shipping containers within our city. They do have to remain on the chassis. So they do serve, they appear and they serve as a trailer, just like any other tractor trailer would have as far as the container. So there wouldn't be an issue in the future with any possibility of stacking or having those shipping containers where they're on the ground in any way.
Okay, no, somebody else? Yeah, Byron? You? No? Melanie? Yeah.
I had a question concerning the emergency vehicle entrance and exit that's currently on Red Bluff, shown on Red Bluff on the map. Would there be any ability to move that location to perhaps near the fire training area?
Well, currently the fire training grounds themselves are owned by the fire department. And that would be a negotiation they would have to have. I do believe there are some prohibitions on how that property was acquired, on how that property can be used when it was donated by American Acryl to the city, and it can only be for the sole purpose of the fire training ground itself. So I don't know.
For only fire training?
That's correct.
So not to allow their vehicles to get to?
That's correct. And that's not even a public, I mean, ultimately that street is part of that project, so it's limited to government use, so it's not really what I would consider a public street for that type of thoroughfare or that type of transaction.
Okay.
Just one further point on that, would the city requirements require that gate, I suppose, to be locked with one of those red lock boxes, I guess?
That's correct. I think the intent is for it to purely be used for emergency services. We have an example of that over off of Meyer Road. We have a subdivision where there's secondary means of ingress and egress off of Meyer, right by East Galveston Bay, that goes into one of the gated subdivisions. That gate is always closed. That's the intent of this. We can quantify that in the document to make sure that it's noted that that's the only sole purpose of that gate is we'll go through this process.
So first I wanted to just reiterate / confirm that this discussion today does not mean that we're approving this. So we are just giving suggestions, putting the onus back on the developer to try to accommodate those suggestions before it goes to public hearing and we approve, correct?
That's correct. So again, I acknowledged this at the last hearing. This is a two-part process. The preliminary process allows the developer to come in and present a concept. And then obviously the investment they're going to make in creating the document itself is significant. So they want some sort of understanding that as a whole, if this moves forward, that it's just definitely not a no before it moves any further through the process. You're not approving anything tonight. Ultimately, the next step in this process will be for the developer to prepare the document with the conditions that you guys identify. And then we'll bring that back. It'll go back to planning and zoning for a public hearing. We'll go through the public hearing process again. They'll make a recommendation. They'll come back to council. And then there'll be ultimately 2 readings of ordinances if it's going to be approved.
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, guys. During the process, what's the furthest that are we allowed to make changes to the PUD during that process?
You can make changes to the document itself right up to approval. So we've had this happen in the past where they present the final document to City Council. City Council identifies things that still need to be tweaked prior to second reading of an ordinance. A lot of times those things will be addressed. And then when it comes back to second reading of ordinance, right to the end, you guys are reviewing that and determining if it's appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
The items that were identified during the P&Z hearing, I think there might have been 8 of them. Are they already included in our schedule here, or are they yet to be included? We would include that if we got to a motion, if we ever got that far. Is that right?
That's correct.
Sure that the P&Z items are included, plus whatever we.
That's correct. From the staff perspective, if this is going to if it's going to move forward to the next review process or the next element of requirement of the process, I'm truly looking for some prescriptive for you guys to make a motion to identify what you want to see in this document. It'll assist the developer and staff to make sure those elements are in the document when it comes back. And so again, that way if it does move forward, we can be efficient through the process as far as making sure everything you guys are looking for, the community's looking for. Plus, it'll give them an opportunity to actually evaluate the economics of what's being asked and how it would work and incorporate into the project.
And Angela, I have one more thing, sorry. Mm-hmm. In the zoning ordinances, Article 8, Section 8.01, that points to protection for the public against smoke, smell, vibration, glare, that sort of stuff. 804 is noise, 65 decibels is what I read in the ordinance. Section 8.10, luminary regulations, eliminate glare, light trespass, be a good neighbor was actually incorporated in there. Security lights not permitted unless fully shielded. No more than 33% of the fixtures are allowed for security. All those things would be normally included in an ordinance like this.
That's correct. That's correct. What typically, when I do my review through this process, they're going to go through and they're going to create their document, but I'm going to go back to the LI zoning ordinance, which is the ordinance that would allow this use by right. And I'm going to review through that document, that ordinance section, and I'm going to make sure that all the primary things that are in that LI zoning are either referred to by reference back to the zoning ordinance, or those elements are incorporated into the actual PUD document itself. We have a zoning district that allows for this type of use, and all the elements that we prescribe within that section, for the most part, should be incorporated into the PUD document itself. And if they're making any variances from that ordinance, this group needs to be well aware of what they're varying from, so you understand what you are creating variances by adopting this document.
Go ahead, Angela.
So, a few things. This, in my opinion, it's not ideal. As we've heard time and time again, it doesn't fall in line with our master plan. I'm concerned, I have grave concerns that we are writing off the entire north side of Seabrook as industrial, and people have invested millions of dollars into this land. I mean, this is people's, we just heard a gentleman, like he put his entire livelihood into this, speak today. So I don't think we can dismiss that. I think that this is something that we need to, I mean, if I voted today, I would, obviously I'm not in support of it, but for the sake of conversation, discussion, in the spirit of conversation and the fact that I'm just one of 7, I'm going to go ahead and throw out some suggestions that I would like to see.
Should we have the developer up for that, or is Sean good to answer?
Well, Sean's documenting, I mean, we're going to document, and he's the one writing up the P&Z.
That's correct. And all this is being documented in the minutes, and I'll go back through and listen to them, so I'm getting verbatim what you guys are.
Are we allowed to hear from, sorry, Angela, are we allowed to hear from the developer?
Yeah. Let's let Angela do this.
Okay, so I don't believe that the setback from Red Bluff is far enough. I think that I heard the term "be a good neighbor" thrown out by P&Z, but that's such a subjective statement, and it has no meaning. So I think that if we were to seriously discuss this, then these things need to be tangible. They need to be quantifiable, and they need to be more direct requests. So I would like, in my list, the setback to start at the light industrial zoning line, which I think that would be fair. If we did not pass this PUD and a business or the warehouse decided they wanted to use that plot of land, they could use it for light industrial. So I think in the spirit of collaborating and actually showing they want to be good neighbors, that they would push that boundary back a lot further than the way it currently hovers over Red Bluff, in my opinion, given the height.
Can I ask for what that distance is? Do you know what that distance is, Sean? Is it 285 feet? Is that what I measured?
I don't, but we can come up with that distance.
Quantify it.
Yeah.
I mean,
this is a suggestion that was made to me, so I'm not going to take it as my own, but the Red Bluff emergency entrance, if that does have to be on Red Bluff, that they add a height bar so that there is no opportunity for trucks to pass through that. If that gate were to ever be left open, we would surely see rigs trying to come out that entrance. So something preventing that from happening.
one thing that I would just add to that is it's for emergency vehicles. So whatever the height of that bar would be, it would have to be at a height that our emergency vehicles, our fire trucks, our ladder truck could still get in. And so that's something we'd have to look at to see what exactly that height is. Because the purpose is to be able to get that ladder truck in there if we need to from that distance.
Okay, just in the spirit of discussion. So I would also like to see a delayed timeline for groundbreaking, contingent not on the Port Road being complete. I think that intersection is already taxed. And Port Road, once it's complete, we're going to see quantifiable increase in traffic no matter what, whether the warehouse is there or not. So I would like us to delay, and I've checked legally, we can do this per the PUD, to delay the timeline for groundbreaking contingent upon the completion of that intersection. I think that's reasonable and fair considering that the citizens that live here would bear the brunt of that excess. I'd also like to see the images that were presented to us. They were pretty, for lack of a better word. But as we know, trees take at least 20 years to grow. 4-foot berm, 50-foot building. I would like to see mature trees planted on that berm and not these little dinky ones that we have to watch grow. And then the other, to piggyback on the entrance or egress for the emergency, if we do delay the timeline upon completion, then I would like to see them consider doing that emergency entrance at the new Port Road and not on Red Bluff. So we're avoiding impeding our citizen traffic whatsoever.
Sean, you had, since Angela brought up the intersection, you had a drawing of the intersection, what it would look like, the new intersection when the port, I guess, finishes, and then the 4-lane old 146, that whole interchange there.
So this is an exhibit that's been presented to us on what the construction of that intersection will look like when it's completed. So right in here, this is the old State Highway 146 intersection, and then this is the intersection where they're going to make the improvements as they go through that intersection at at State Highway 146 as it continues to the west.
So I see 3 lanes of traffic outbound from the port and 2 inbound, and then surely they're going to have to signal that intersection at old 146. I mean, I can't see you have stop signs there or trucks running through.
That's correct.
And then I understand they're going to make that section between the warehouses and the RV park 4-lane instead of 2-lane. Intersection itself will be 6 lanes. Is that all correct?
That's correct.
Oh, sorry, and that is at the end of the construction cycle, because I think they're going to start up Port Road, come
That's
down
correct.
to the berm, and
They're
then
going to start on the east end when they start construction of the commercial road, and they're going to go to the west towards that intersection. That's correct. That's what's been communicated to us.
okay. I mean, that's a different conversation to prepare for that, but. Anyone? Yes, sir?
I know, going off what Councilman Cervantes was talking about, the emergency vehicle access, I actually think keeping it on Red Bluff is actually going to be the best. I think moving it too far away is only going to impede response and slow response out there. So hopefully we never have to respond out there, but I think keeping it in that area is going to be ultimately what's best for the long-term protection of the development. My fear would be like, if we have to go all the way around to Port Road, it's going to, slow the response out there. And I do, we use these all the time, with the location off of Meyer. The fire department does a really good job of making sure that we secure the gates prior to leaving. So I would like to personally just see it stay on Red Bluff, just so that way it can better our response to it. Somebody had made a comment about the potential of like the flood insurance increasing because of this development. Is that anything that is potentially an issue, or?
It isn't. Those rates for flood insurance are set nationally. They're not set on regions or losses within regions. Those rates are set at a national rate, and it's all based on flood zones, elevations. There's a formula for that. So that shouldn't be an impact to our community.
And I do agree with Councilor Cervantes about see if we can have this set back a little bit further back, just to kind of keep some of the natural scenery that's there on Red Bluff, keep that as much as we can to help that serve also as a buffer. And even when they do build the berm, also if it's possible to get some more mature trees to kind of help do that. I do think that is a good recommendation.
Those were 2 things on my list too, the maybe up to a 300-foot setback buffer, but to the LI certainly, which I think is 285 feet or 275 feet from Red Bluff. And then the mature trees certainly would help. I had something else. Oh, would you talk to the drainage detention and how that affects the drainage with all the concrete and the flow and all that stuff?
Sure. So just to kind of give you a summary of how detention ponds work. So basically, an engineer is going to come in and evaluate that site, and they're going to make a determination based on what the flows are for that property when it's undeveloped. So currently that water runs off of that property at a certain rate in certain areas. They'll do an analysis of that. As part of that, then they're required to build ponds that will collect that water, and then it releases at the same rate it did prior to development. So within those ponds, there's going to be restrictor pipes. The water will drain into those ponds, and then they'll discharge into Pine Gully with a restrictor pipe that will allow that water to flow at the same rate. So as we go through that process, it's being analyzed to make sure that we're not putting any water in the Pine Gully that wasn't going in there prior to development. Does that help?
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure I clarified, because maybe I wasn't specific enough. When I was talking about moving the emergency access, I was referring to the new road, which is basically a straight shot from Red Bluff currently. So, it's like a very direct, I didn't mean, I don't know if you thought that's what I meant, but I didn't mean like actual Port Road.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, with the fire station being on East Meyer, and I just think that it would just be a little bit easier for us to get into it as well.
Okay.
Also, if worst case scenario, if something happens, we're going to have like a lot of multiple assets coming in from area cities, and that could be one thing too that could potentially be an issue on putting like a gate limit. Is like Harris County Hazmat, if they were to ever have to come out, their trucks are much larger than some of our trucks. So limiting the overhead clearance to get into that is something that potentially could hinder response then down the road as well. So
Yeah, fair point. The other question I wanted to touch back on, because I had written it down, but I forgot that statement that was made, and I thought it was an interesting statement. The insurance, the flood insurance. So the state does evaluations based on, current flood zones, and I mean, that's constantly being reevaluated, and our insurance is changing. I know mine's changed about 3 times since I built my home. So I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine that if you're changing the topography of the land so drastically, I mean, because that is a wetland, it might not be the continuous whatever does it, but it is wetland, and that water has to go somewhere. So if you're changing that entire topography and concreting it in, then it very well could eventually change our flood areas, right? The floodplains. And our insurance.
It's never going to change our flood rates. Our flood rates are established by the federal government, by FEMA, through that process. It's not localized. It's not through the state. And it's a national. So when they have flooding in New Jersey, their rates don't go up. They're all set by a national rate. It's all based on a formula. It doesn't matter. It's not based on local losses. So it's not like your homeowners or our personal insurance, where when we have suffered losses and we file claims, then our insurance goes up because it's a localized event. That's not how our flood insurance works. It's all set at a federal level, and it's all on an equal basis. It doesn't matter who's having losses or not. As far as dealing with the floodplain itself, those flood elevations are all set. That's all an AE flood zone out there, so you can build on structural fill, so you can actually bring fill into that zoning, into that area to begin with. So at some point in time, they can bring fill in and elevate that site, so they're elevating it in a way so it's not going to impact flooding. And again, it's all going to be engineered. Everything that they do, every project that happens in our city, it is engineered, and that's why the detention ponds are going to be placed on that property. Believe me, anybody who develops in our city doesn't want to spend a large amount of money to dig holes to put water in. They want to put structures on it. So again, as we go through that process, they're required to design the drainage so they're not going to adversely impact the adjacent properties. And believe me, we take that very serious. We're flat here, so we're going to take it very serious to make sure that's not occurring.
Byron?
Mayor, may I? Oh, it was Byron? Did you say Byron? I'm so sorry. Okay. So over time, there's probably going to be some type of security fence. When we're talking about the drainage and we're talking about protecting their property, et cetera, I'd like to make sure there's some type of opportunity for wildlife to have a little bit more space with that fencing, should it happen. And I also want to make sure that that's a pass-through for water to be able to get through the fencing, such that if there is a heavy rain event, that water is following the proper drainage.
Yeah, for the record, on that same, I was going to say the same thing, Summer, and my hope is that if the developer is able to move the property line, the building line back, that would allow more room for vegetation, that we could save more trees on the front end, and save some of the bigger trees, maybe because the development wouldn't be that close to, as close to the road. And I think you guys get the point here, what we're trying to accomplish. And then to Summer's point about the wildlife migration, if that was possible, and if the fence line, I realize you got to secure your place, but if the fence line were in the trees but not to the edge of the property line, let's just say, that might leave ingress and egress for the critters to get back and forth to the wildlife refuge, just, thinking. And I kind of like the idea, and it was in your original plan set to the port, about having that small waterway between the two detention ponds. I don't know if that's physically possible with putting a road in for the emergency egress, but I kind of like that idea too. Those were some of the things I wanted to go over.
Okay, going back to the timeline issue, I would like P&Z and the developer to look at the timeline. So nothing's being approved here. It could take, I have no justification for this, but months, let's just say 4 months to get final approval from City Council after it goes through the process with P&Z. And then I believe the developer was saying their design phase, once all that's done, could be 6 to 8 months down the road. So I'm looking at it, looks like this could be pushed back until actual construction starts, to where this Southern Port Road would be finished then, and then we could have all the construction traffic going on Port Road and staying off, coming down Red Bluff for the pre-construction and all that, just delay that until the Port Road is actually done. And that'll help out the local citizens in keeping the safe Red Bluff Road alleviated of all the construction traffic. And I don't think we're that far away from the actual construction date to when the Port Road will be finished.
Can I piggyback on that real quick? So during the Port Road construction, I would assume that the port will have another area, kind of like what they call a timber road, or a road that they'll have to use to bring their construction stuff down. And I saw that there was already kind of a road. Would that be a viable resource for the developer to use to perhaps help them in their building of the potential warehouses?
I think that's that cutout road that the port's using on the north side to the railroad.
Yeah, it's right on the boundaries of our city limits. I'm not sure exactly how they're going to stage some of their. My guess is they're not going to build a huge construction road to build their road. My guess is they're probably going to come down Freight Station Road, which is the road that comes off of Port Road and comes back to the south. And they'll probably stage in that area, and they'll do their construction from the east to the west. I'm not imagining, if they're going to build that direction, that they're going to do a lot of activity where they're having to construct something that it's not going to be feasible to do.
To Melanie's point.
But I can verify that. Yep. I mean, we can get with the port and verify how they're.
And I think I spoke to Gail about this, Guy and I did, to Melanie's point, maybe that's an option for construction traffic for at least getting the, you're going to have bulldozers and whatnot are going to be on the property for a long time, that they could use that, potentially that road, which is basically Well, it's at the top.
Of this exhibit, it kind of shows you the circulation path of what's going to happen when they build this southern access road. So this is what I was referring to as Freight Station Road. So this is Port Road up here. This is Freight Station. You can see they're getting ready to construct a big loop through the port where they're going to have two means of ingress and egress out of the port. My guess is when they build this road, they're going to start on the east end and go to the west. My guess is they'll probably stage up in this area here and they'll go this way as they build this.
I just want to circle back to my original suggestion because I feel like we're encouraging them to come back with an option of doing construction before that road is complete. So I would like to just reiterate that I see it important if we did engage in this conversation again, that construction, those construction vehicles do not start coming down our roads until that port road is finalized. And I'd really like to see the 146 intersection finalized as well.
I mean, I don't see how you could say that because you got Bayway Homes building homes back there, and we built the water treatment plant with trucks going back and forth on that road. There are ways to mitigate that, to stage their equipment on site, to utilize off hours when cars are not on the road to get the equipment in. It just seems fair to me.
I can say that because this is a PUD, so they're asking to do something that doesn't fall in line with our strategic plan, our master plan. So we can make whatever recommendations we want because they're asking for a variance from what we actually designated this area to be. So I think it's more than reasonable. We should be looking out for our citizens that live on the north end of Seabrook.
Again, I'll bring up the point, there is construction traffic on Red Bluff now, so I just don't see the difference.
Legal construction traffic. This is a PUD, so this doesn't fall in line with our zoning.
I don't think that has anything to do with it.
It has everything to do with it because we're writing the guidelines. We have control over how this property is done. So
Just the word legal, that has nothing to do with this conversation.
they've done it within the proper zoning. This is not within the proper zoning unless we grant them a PUD, which is why we're having this conversation. So we have the control to protect our citizens in any capacity possible, which in my opinion and based on all of the feedback that we've gotten from the citizens, traffic and congestion and big trucks and construction trucks is not ideal and it's going to impact our citizens adversely. So this is definitely a request that we should consider.
So Sean, can you please confirm that the current zoning is L1 in that area that the developer currently has, correct? And within that L1, they're currently able to build warehouses, even if they're not to the scale of what they're proposing with or without the PUD?
That's correct. So this is the property in question right here. This area here has been identified. It's C2. There's a C1 location right here. And then all this where the detention pond currently is and all this gray area is currently zoned LI, light industrial.
So they would be able to proceed if they were able to manipulate their designs and drawings for warehouses. They would be able to construct those in that L1 without any, they just have to follow the city's current requirements for L1, correct?
That's correct.
And they would be able to use Red Bluff Road to do that construction.
That's correct. Without any special approval, they could go through the process and they could build on this piece of property currently with just going through permitting. And yes, they could access construction traffic to get to here. However, I mean, as a caveat is they would never be able to put truck traffic on Red Bluff Road, period, for the use themselves. They would have to wait until that road was constructed to access that southern access road that the port's building currently, because any type of traffic impact analysis, a TIA that we would require major improvement of that road prior to them to using it for that type of use. But yes, if they were going to come in and if something went wrong and this isn't approved and they decided to figure out how to work this piece of property now and come in and develop it, they could develop it and put warehousing on it and access it for construction off of Red Bluff.
They would have to, I mean, it's buffered, Red Bluff is buffered by a commercial C1 zone, and that's the only access to the property is
That's
going
correct, but
through
they
that.
could still access through that.
Okay, they just can't build on that
They
or
could-
do anything on that property?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
And just to clarify, that would include cutting trees or putting their detention or anything like that in the C1. If they were just using the L1 portion of the property, they couldn't put a fence, just to clarify for the record.
That's correct.
In that C1 area, right? Okay.
That's correct.
I'm sorry, did you say could or could not put a fence? Could not?
Not in the C1 if they were just building by right in the L1.
They could only put the fence in the L1. Okay. But they could clear cut to make access straight through to the LI because they own the property, right?
That's correct. I mean, currently, how our ordinances are written, as far as addressing the cutting of trees on that property, the property owner currently could come in and basically clear cut that property now under our current ordinances. There's some protected trees. There's a list. They got to be 16 inches in diameter, but the majority of that property is covered with tallow trees and things that aren't protected. And so the property owner now could come in and clear that property, and there's nothing in our ordinances that would prohibit, other than there would probably be some sporadic 20, 30 trees probably left on that property, would be my guess.
The tree and brush along the right-of-way on Red Bluff, that is county right-of-way, or is that utility easement?
So about, I want to say probably 15, 16 years ago, they platted this property. When they platted this property, the city at the time, we have authority to exact right-of-way in case there's an expansion of the right-of-way for public good. So there was an exaction of some right-of-way off of that property. So from the edge of the county's current right-of-way, when it was platted, there was an additional 30 feet taken from the property owner at the time of platting. So there is, once you get past that ditch, there's a distance where we have new where you can really identify it. There's a line of trees, and then there's a gap where you can see where we had put our new wastewater treatment lines in. That is part of that right-of-way area, and so we cleared that so that we could do our construction. We had the rights because it was city right-of-way.
Let's assume that construction happened in C1. They couldn't touch those trees on our right-of-way. That's city right-of-way.
They can only remove the trees that are within their property boundaries.
Within the property boundaries, which is?
Anything that's outside their property, they don't have the rights to remove.
Okay. Oh, yes, sir.
So how deep is that C1 section that's still there? As highlighted, the property straddles two different areas, the Red Bluff to the south, warehouse to the north. Is there a way to preserve that C1 use along that Red Bluff to help kind of draw the line that this is going to be that buffer?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if council's establishing that is a requirement to move forward, then they would have to work around that. I don't know exactly what the depth of that is.
Okay.
I used the GIS map today, and it was 200.
On this, I can probably guesstimate. It's going to not even.
How much did you say it is? Mayor Sweeney? Oh, I thought you had said something that you did a GIS.
I think it's going to be like about 200.
Let's see. It's not working. It shows that it's about
300.
278 feet.
All right.
On using the measuring tool on this.
That's what I did, yeah.
All right, and then the next part was, I know we are not the first ones to discuss this, but it did go before planning and zoning, which did have some fruitful discussion. And I see in their recommendation, they highlighted a few points. I just want you you can summarize those. And while you're doing that, one of the benefits of sitting here during public hearings, during public comments, in addition to the speaker, is I've been able to see the developers' representatives, and they've been paying attention, and they haven't had the chance to respond to anything since our last public hearing. So I would like to give them the opportunity to see they've heard from you, just as we have, and I'd like to hear what they come up with that they can already work with before we even have to. So,
Could we ask the developer to come?
but first I'd like Sean, if you wouldn't mind just going over those that P&Z's already discussed and presented their recommendation. Just want to give you a little bit of time before you came up.
So again, I presented this at the last meeting. These were the 5 things that they identified. Many of these things are identified within our current LI zoning ordinance. As I stated prior, as staff goes through our review process, we're going to make sure that anything that's in the LI zoning is basically being addressed within the PUD document for the most part. And these things would fall under that. And I don't know if you guys want me to read these to you, but basically it was incorporate the regulations for the light industrial zoning district for as far as the safety and material handling regulations, which is basically that last exhibit that I showed you. It had a list of all those prohibited things that you can do within that district. Address the construction-related impacts along Red Bluff. You guys have definitely addressed that there's concerns on that type of issue. Incorporate applicable Class A building material requirements. Basically what they're already providing with the document, they just want to make sure that all that information or everything that's shown in the exhibits actually gets incorporated into some sort of written draft. So we're not regulating a PUD document based on exhibits, and I promise you that'll happen. That ultimately, there's a lot of pretty pictures that were originally shown. We will require them to take all the information that's on those pictures and incorporate it in some sort of text. So we're not, if there's ever any conflict in compliance, I'm not taking a picture to court. I got actual written language and text that we're presenting that they're in violation of the document itself. Evaluate the proposed landscape berm to determine whether additional height. Again, there's been conversation within this group of trying to figure out how to either increase the buffer or figure out how to increase the height, and even in increasing the height, the type of trees or vegetation is going to be planted on top of that berm. We don't want something that's significant, not something that's we're going to have to wait 5-10 years for it to grow in and actually mitigate the impacts of the warehouse itself. Include provisions requiring replacement of failing landscape materials. That's something that it's within our landscaping ordinance to begin with, and we'll make sure there's either a reference back to the landscaping ordinance or those things are incorporated into the document itself. And ensure that proposed site lighting complies with all applicable city lighting standards. That's not something that only we can address in the PUD, but it's already addressed in our other areas of our building code. And we require that they submit a photometric survey as part of our construction document review to make sure that all the site lighting on that property is designed to not encroach on adjacent properties.
All right, so within that first item, you said that addresses, within that is a list of things, but includes hazardous materials, which is a concern the public's had. There's the Red Bluff concern, which is one that we can see still in progress, discussions moving forward on that. And then the light impact being the final item that was on there. I think those are all things that have come up in public discussion as well. Let's see, and then I think noise is one that's still to be discussed. So, but thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
I did have a question about that. Thank you. Noise. Is there, I know the waterways are designed to help mitigate some of the noise, but noise does travel. We all know that. We live near the water. So are there any additional, features that could be incorporated that could cut down on, I was in the trucking industry for 15 years and they're loud, so I get it.
There are some additional screening mechanisms we can use. Some wing walls within the truck court area to try to contain any sound that might emanate from the truck court area. The buildings are designed right now so the truck courts don't face Red Bluff, so they're facing east and west. So hopefully most of the noise will not travel southward, but there's some additional screening that we can put on the truck court to minimize that noise. And as far as the other comments that were made about what we're open to, I think we're yes, I think we're open to increasing that buffer to just probably a little more barrier between the neighborhood to the south and the start of the actual development, and can definitely look at some enhanced landscaping to kind of continue further screening of the property and minimize any sight lines from Red Bluff or any neighborhood around into the development as well. One thing that we have incorporated in a lot of our developments is a LEED standard. So LEED stands for leadership, energy and environmental design, and it's basically a sustainability rating for buildings. We've done LEED Silver on several of our buildings. That's something we can incorporate on this development as well, potentially. And we were happy to look at, any other specific features that the council wants us to consider. It goes without saying, we develop Class A products, so we'll be using, masonry and glass concrete.
Is that the white TPO roof? Is that what it's called? Is that the
we'll have white TPO roofs, and I think in the early days, TPO roofs were considered a quote unquote sustainable feature. It's kind of become more than just industry norm right now, but we will definitely be including a TPO roof in our project.
For the developer? Did you have a specific question for him?
If you have something you'd like to ask first, you're fine. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Miss.
What's my name?
You didn't raise your hand.
Didn't yet. I was waiting.
Member Sanford.
So my question is, okay, since we're talking about the roof, we have a ton of migratory birds that come in and out of this area, especially in the Pine Gully and Wildlife Refuge area, which is where this is looking at going. Can we, last time we kind of talked about it, I noticed it didn't make it on the list here, but we talked about possibly doing something on the rooftop to help nesting birds and migratory birds, something maybe green space on the top of the actual roof. I don't know if that's even possible. Is it?
I have never seen it done on an industrial building personally. It's something I'm happy to look into. I've seen a lot of examples of industrial buildings. I've never seen incorporated, but it's something we can look into. I can't promise you that we would incorporate that just because
That's a great idea. I've seen that on some professional medical buildings.
Yeah, I've seen it on like office buildings, yeah, but never on an industrial building.
Yes, sir.
So, one of a kind for Seabrook.
Excuse me?
Sorry. We could have a one of a kind building in Seabrook to lead the way for the future.
Some comments were brought up regarding timeline. I wanted to give you the opportunity to give some feedback on that.
Yeah, I mean, our timeline is very much predicated on this process. But, typically, we wouldn't release design of a building until there's surety that, hey, we can, close on the land, we've got our financing lined up, and the city of Seabrook is supportive of the project. So, I mean, I'm just, hypothetically speaking, if we were to close, say, in the fourth quarter of 2026, the design of these buildings is actually fairly quick. The actual drawing of the buildings, it probably takes roughly 10 weeks to get full construction documents. They would have to go through the city of Seabrook, permitting process to get those specific buildings permitted. And then the actual construction of these buildings takes approximately a year once you've got a shovel in the ground.
And so one of the concepts was waiting for that road on the north side of the property to be built. Is that something that would be workable for you, or?
That would be, I mean, we'd have to look in the specific timeline, just, speaking out loud, it'd be a little bit of a challenge for us waiting specifically until that road is done. I will say this, we would never start construction of this building until we had 100% surety that the road will be completed before the buildings. That way, we would never build these buildings without surety that road will be done before the buildings. Otherwise, we'd build buildings that can't be accessed.
So the Port Road, just not the intersection?
Correct.
I'd be curious how the port is going to handle that port road, that southern access road and intersection as a complete project. That's a different conversation, but.
According to what I understand, the southern port road access is part of the intersection that the port will be building. So when they're building the port road, they will build the intersection.
Part of the project. Okay.
As part of the timeline. They're not going to do one and then wait and do the intersection down the road. It will be all part of the same project.
Okay. And I did ask the city manager to ask the port if they would start at the intersection and Port Road at the same time, and they won't do that.
Yeah, that's fair. I still have strong concerns about this project being completed and that intersection not being completed. It's already an issue, and this will make it worse. So I'm standing firm on that being one of our recommendations.
I understand your concern, but would we be able to do anything with the trucks that will be traveling down Port Road without the intersection?
That's a whole different issue. We're talking about adding more trucks.
Well, how is that a different issue?
Because if we approve this warehouse, then we're adding more trucks to the trucks that are already going to be. There are some things we can control and some things we can't. This we can control.
Those trucks will probably already be going to the port.
There's no way, I mean, based on your previous experience building these warehouses, is there any way to estimate the truck traffic on a daily basis from a warehouse of this magnitude?
Roughly, we get traffic impact analysis all the time, so we can come up with an estimate, but again, it's very much predicated upon the specific nature of the tenant occupying the building.
Sure. And there is a northern road that the port has been using. I don't know if it's a dirt road or if it's, I know it's not a cement road, but could you look into that as an egress for your?
We could look into it, yes. We have not had any direct conversations with them about utilizing that road for construction, but something we can talk to them about.
Anybody else?
Do you guys already have tenants lined up for this if it were approved?
No, we build on a speculative basis. We don't have tenants lined up. And I would like to address just a comment about, vacant warehouses. Our business, the business we're in is very much predicated on, building buildings and leasing them. We have the potential to lose serious money if we build buildings that do not get occupied. We invest a lot of money in these buildings and we're at great financial risk if they do not get leased. So we only target, locations that we think that we can, find suitable tenants for our warehouses.
I did hear one of the comments about, I think it was I forget what the percentage occupancy was, but I was in a presentation 2 weeks ago with the Barry Houston Economic Partnership, and they said there was about a 5 to 8% vacancy rate in a warehouse of this type. Do you have any of that?
That's correct. It's about, closer to 6.5%. We're one of the most active developers in the Houston region. I've specifically focused on industrial development in Houston for the past 13 years. The market is very, very strong. It's frankly, it's one of the strongest in the country right now, which is why we're seeing a lot of out-of-town developers try to develop within the Houston region.
There were also suggestions about employing locals, people from Seabrook. What is your take? What is your feedback on that?
I'm definitely for it. I would have to think long and hard about how that would actually be implemented in any meaningful, measurable way. But I'm open to the concept of how to employ more locals within Seabrook.
So if that were built into the plan as something quantifiable, that would be something that you would make happen?
I would have to look at the specific language and figure out how that would potentially impact leasing, because at the end of the day, we have to lease these to tenants that have specific types of labor use. It would depend on the specific language.
Anybody else? Still thinking anything? Good.
There was an interesting comment that was brought up about a form of tenancy requirement, making sure the buildings don't sit vacant for extended periods of time. Is that, I don't know if you'd like to answer that one or if Sean would like to see how that could work with a PUD. Effectively making sure the building doesn't stay vacant for X, is that how that would be written? Is that something that's been done in the past? It's an interesting idea.
I mean, I believe that's all market related. It's, we're talking about a land use. I don't think there's really anything that the city would have authority to enforce. It would be difficult. Once this building's built. So the recourse, if these things are happening, I don't know even how you would build that into where there's any even possibility that there would be an enforcement authority. How you would even deal with that. It's more about the land use and making sure the building's operating in a way that it doesn't impact the community and it's a benefit to the community somehow. So I think that's really what this process is more about.
Different if there was an incentive, but there's not.
And then there was also the comment about that a vacant building wouldn't be producing tax. I don't believe that's correct, is it?
It's not, because it's going to be based on the improvement. So the value of that improvement is what's going to be it's what's going to drive the actual ad valorem tax revenue that the city's going to. Now, there is an opportunity for some inventory tax sometimes that the city's collecting, but the primary revenue source off of this type of project is going to be the ad valorem value of the property itself.
And Sean, but I do want to add that our calculations did not have any consideration for inventory tax, and I didn't show that because we don't know who's going to occupy the building, but I think there's a very good opportunity. There could be some additional revenue from inventory in the building.
This might be a question beyond you, but do you know if any of these developmental warehouses receive tax breaks currently? I know y'all have a lot on the roster.
We do not receive tax breaks, no ma'am. Not that I'm aware of. The only thing that we potentially get it would be mud reimbursements when we develop within the municipal utility district, but that's when we're actually fronting the cost to extend utilities at our own expense and then getting reimbursed through a bond issuance later on. But no, we don't get tax breaks.
Okay, thank you.
Going back to the revenue and the tax on the improved property, didn't we estimate it to be about $347,000 a year for revenue for the city?
I believe 373. Let me check my notes.
Okay, I transposed the numbers. That was great. Okay, so 373,000. So it's roughly.
Sorry, no, you're correct. 343. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. 340. No, I didn't say that. But okay, 343,000.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at about $4 million over 10 years in just tax revenue. If you guys stay vacant, God forbid, for 10 years, that's how much we're looking at making on the property.
First of all, the building won't stay vacant for 10 years.
I know that makes you have a heart attack, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'd say like
brass tacks, worst case scenario.
I'd say roughly that sounds correct, and I think that the taxable value only increase with time. So I think that's a very base level estimate. I mean, the taxable value today roughly is $108 a square foot, and we think that's going to continue to go up based on what we're seeing from a supply demand basis in warehouses.
Got it. Thank you.
Just a comment for my fellow council. That sounds like a lot of money, but if you consider the loss in property value for the people that live there, I just would like you guys to consider that when we're making this decision as well.
Would is it typical, Sean, that ordinance restrictions like this follow the land? Say if the building was sold, whatever restrictions are in place in the PUD would follow the land, right?
That's correct. Once you grant this PUD documented by ordinance, that use will go with the land, no matter who owns the property or whatever the outcome is in the future. The uniqueness about a PUD document is it's an overlay. So even if you approve this PUD at some point in time and this developer decides not to build it, unless you guys modify the PUD document itself, it's now that property would have to have this project on it. Somebody would have to come in and ask you to repeal the PUD document to even for the underlying zoning to come back into play.
Chair, yes, sir.
And then, so these buildings would have annual inspections by the fire marshal's office to ensure that what is being stored in there is what's allowed under local code and ordinances, that ensuring that the fire conditions, the sprinkler systems and all those are accurate, are adequate for what's being stored there, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Angela?
Just to piggyback on Mayor's question, so that means that the requirements that we built into the PUD would also be in perpetuity?
That's correct. Yeah, everything that's in that document, it's adopted by ordinance. Will be the regulations that the city will have the authority to enforce. For the most part, I mean, look at this as a master plan and all the references. When you see the final document, you'll see how detailed this gets at some point in time. All the references for our landscaping, signage, everything will be in this document at some point in time. Or they'll just reference back to our current codes and ordinances that they're going to comply with those sections of our current codes and ordinances, the prescribed methods. So for the most part, when you create this document, you're really writing a prescribed zoning ordinance that's in this document for the specific piece of property.
And I know that Jared mentioned the fire marshal going to check it once a year. Will our code enforcement folks be driving around there to ensure that things are kept as we have them in the PUD as well?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
I had one question. P&Z, I was at that meeting, and They discussed traffic management for just a touch on the subject, but they decided not to require it in the PUD. Do you know why? Was there a reason?
I don't recall exactly. I mean, ultimately, they're a recommending body to this group, so as they went through the process, they felt the list that they created would highlight the areas that really they would recommend need to be addressed, knowing that we're going to go through this process, and you guys would probably come up with additional items as we go through the process.
All right.
Another question for the developer. So I know last time I asked you about the wetlands, but also I failed to ask, this is also largely controlled by the GLO so was the GLO or any of those other agencies contacted to evaluate and review this property?
It was controlled by the GLO before the Lazaris.
No, I just mean to consult with them, since it is wetlands and there's a assumably large water table.
As far as I know it, as a developer, the only governing body over wetlands is the Army Corps of Engineers. And that's who we've consulted with, and we have a non-jurisdictional determination from them.
Okay, have y'all done an environmental impact study yet?
We have an endangered species study, yes. Not a full-blown environmental impact analysis, no.
Okay, so I would like to add that to the list as well.
Well, and that's a standard requirement. So again, this is a two-part process. Right now, we're going through the process of determining the land use and if it's appropriate, what kind of conditions. When we get into our technical review, we require the submission of that environmental study. So we're verifying the things, a lot of the concerns that's being talked about as far as drainage, how the building's going to be constructed, wind speed compliance, all those things, that's part of our normal technical review. We're going to get those documents. We're definitely going to make sure they're in compliance as part of their design and their development with all state, federal, and local laws as we go through our process.
Would we be able to, as council, see, to Sean, sorry, this list that you're going to pull from this recording to ensure that everything that everyone wanted to see was covered before it goes back to P&Z for another public hearing, assuming that we went that direction?
Yeah, I can definitely listen to the minutes and create what I feel the list is, and we would have to, and then I would place it on the agenda and a future agenda for you guys to review. I mean, for you guys to review and actually communicate, I think it would have to be done in a public meeting format. So I could create that list, and at the next meeting, I could put it on the agenda so that everybody's in concurrence with that's what the list is.
Anyone need more time? Oh, yes, sir.
Could you pull up the zoning map again, please? So as highlighted by the community, and I think from our discussion here too, is I don't think we're interested in any more light industrial moving any further south, and trying to preserve that C1 section, carrying it maybe even across to the west as making that's the line, no further south than that. It's about 300 foot is what you estimated, 275, 278. I was curious for the developer, that being viewed as, I think a similar number was used as a nature buffer for the berm, things like that. If it were to be preserved for the current zoning, which is the C1 for a commercial use, does that, obviously taking a buffer impacts the design, but if it's used for nature versus commercial, I don't know that that's a question we have prepared to answer right now, but how does that impact if it's, the buffer is there either way, how it's used? I'm not sure how that would affect.
It's something we'd have to discuss internally and look at the financial implications of it. I wish I had a specific answer for you today, but everything, we at the end of the day, the project has to be financially feasible, and that's what we'd have to go back and look at that. I think it's a possibility, but we just have to go back and look at that.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
No, I just want to thank you. You've been very respectful, and I appreciate that. We have to walk a line. We have to do what's in the best interest of the community.
No, we get it, and it's a democratic process, and we want to respect that. So we appreciate the time and the questions, and thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Who wants to, before we can vote, we need a list of the items that we've discussed so that we can create an amendment and vote on the amendment with the added items and then vote on the main motion.
I have a question.
I have a list. Oh, sorry.
Would it be, my real quick question, would it be appropriate to like table this table it to allow city staff to actually draft up all the notes, table it till our next council meeting then that way we would have a cleaner motion on the process. Is that something that's possible?
That's the whole point of this thing, isn't it?
I suppose, but Summer has the list.
I have some on the list. I want to make sure we go over it to make sure I got everything, but I was making a list.
Well, let's go
Got
there
9
first.
items.
See.
You want me, okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Restrictions on hazardous materials, prohibition on stacking shipping containers. Number 2, setback to the LI section. And then I wrote, Jared said it's not a great idea. Sorry, that was not part of the thing. Okay. 3, delay the groundbreaking until the completion of the intersection at 146 in Red Bluff. 4, make sure that they plant mature trees. 5, proper fencing and try to save extra trees with their fence line. 6, I put the C1 section is 278 feet back, possibly create that as the buffer. 7, I put wing walls for sound. 8, we want a traffic impact study, and a 9, an environmental study. I don't know if I missed anything. Anybody got anything else?
The environmental study is already going to be required, so is there really a reason to put that in the PUD?
No.
Look, I'm an overachiever, Councilman.
I mean, technically, but it won't hurt anything if it's in there. I mean, it's
Right.
something that's going to happen anyway, but I mean, if you want additional belt and suspenders on the
I
process.
would also add that we would incorporate all of the suggestions from the P&Z meeting that you went over on that list.
One thing we did not have in there that I would like in there is something for nocturnal animals, lights out time period. We didn't really discuss that, and I just remembered it.
Perimeter nocturnal lighting?
Would that be possible if they have like 24/7 operations?
I have no
I
idea.
don't think, we wouldn't be allowed to like limit the hours of operation, correct?
Probably the developer question, sorry.
Again, I think they're planning on having a 24-hour operation. And again, the economics of it, it's probably not going to work for them if they have to turn off the lights at some point in time.
Angela, did you have some other things that we missed?
So I didn't say this, but I'm piggybacking because I did think it was a great idea when Councilor Summer said it last time. So if we can't do a blackout period for the nocturnal, then we need to have like a stricter, I don't think our lighting regulation should be based on current zoning. I think we need to have a more stringent lighting regulation.
We can look at some
At night.
reduced lighting requirements at night for sure within our buildings.
I'm going to add that. Reduced lighting requirements at night. Okay.
And as far as sound goes, they would abide by the already pre-established city ordinances on sound pollution, correct?
That's correct.
Just to be clear, I know there's a lot of discrepancy on what heavy industrial is. Can you go over that this is not going to be a heavy industrial area and why that's important to notate the difference between LI and heavy industrial?
That's correct. So the refineries that you see in Pasadena off of Port Road, there is no allowance for that type of use in our zoning ordinance within our city. So currently, the LI doesn't include any type of those uses based on some of the parameters that are already drafted in that document. So it's something it's not allowed, it's not permissible. We never have to worry about those coming into our city based on our standard zoning that we have in place.
Can we also squash that this won't be a data center?
Within the PUD document.
Articles are there,
be
but
very
I'm telling you.
prescribed what it is.
Very
It can't
good.
be
Very
It
good.
can't go beyond what the allowances are within the document itself. So
Okay.
it'll never be a data center if it's approved.
Thank you.
But currently refining, all that is banned, is banned by right. But the storage of hazard materials potentially could be in there based off of
Those
the
are
tenants.
prohibited in our current LI zoning currently, how it's written. And so as we draft that, we'll make sure that there's language within the document itself that very much prescribes and details that there's not allowance for that type of storage.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think, was the rooftop nesting, did you put that on the list?
No, and that was my thing. Rooftop, green space, possibilities.
So ultimately, what we'll be looking for is you guys, if you're going to go ahead and vote on this tonight based on the list you're creating, then at some point in time, somebody's going to verbalize that within the motion that you're approving it with these requests.
That's what we're doing.
So we're approving, but we're not fully approving. We're just,
All you're approving is the preliminary.
Yeah.
It doesn't relieve them from going through the rest of the process. It's just a formal approval of the preliminary PUD process, which triggers and allows them to go the next steps within the process.
so,
Again, this will never be approved until it's formalized by the second reading of the ordinance itself.
Okay, so I have as an amendment to the item to add restrictions on hazardous materials. It says something about shipping. I missed that, Summer. Stacking. No
Stacking, no snacking. Okay, stacking containers.
Moving the setback to the LI boundaries, delaying the ground breaking until the 146 intersection is complete, adding mature trees and not baby trees. Proper fencing, potentially interior to the landscape to allow for wildlife and trail buffer too. The LI setback would be to the end of C1, which we estimated 278 feet. Adding wing walls for sound mitigation, adding back in the items on Sean's list that were brought over from P&Z, reduced lighting, again, for wildlife and rooftop green space for the birds. That is the list I have. If someone would like to make that amendment motion, and then I'll get a second, and then we'll vote on the amendment, and then we'll move it to the question.
Motion to amend to add said items.
Councilmember Sanford makes a motion to amend the question to the list that I just read. Do I have a second? Councilmember Sessom seconds. All in favor of the amendment? Opposed? Unanimous. So the amendment moves. I have that list. Now we move back to the amended question. This is 6.2. Consider take all appropriate action on a request for approval of a preliminary planned unit development to create a local support, et cetera, with the amended restrictions that we have listed that I will give to the city secretary's office. All in favor? Opposed? Councilmember Cervantes opposed. Motion carries by majority. Thank you, everyone. This was a really, really good discussion, and we have a lot more work to do on it. We will pull item 7, executive session. We are not quite prepared for that item yet. We are pulling, of course, item 8, going back into open session, and then we're in routine business. Item 9.1, establish future meeting dates and agenda items. If I could ask council if they are available for a joint meeting with Parks and Trails to discuss the Hanson donated property on August 18th, which I think is our next council meeting, but at 5 p.m. before the council meeting. Yeah. Certain, yeah. If we can get a quorum anyway, that would be awesome. Yeah. Okay. We at least have a quorum. Just let me know. All right. Thank you, and please continue.
Okay, Mayor and Council, the next meeting that we're going to have is going to be tomorrow. It's a special City Council workshop that's going to be tomorrow, August 5th at 6 p.m. And then we have a regular City Council meeting on August 18th
2026 at 6 p.m. And then again, the next day, there's going to be a special city council meeting. That'll be August 19th at 6 p.m.
Hearing no further motions or activity, this council is adjourned at 8:43. Thank you.